everybody, and welcome back to Need More Info, a podcast exploring the world of movies, video games, and TV shows. I'm your host, Nate, and today we have returning guests James, Doug, and followed by new members Chaz and Jordan. Welcome, everybody. How are we all doing today? Hope you've all had a great week.
It's been alright, yeah, not bad.
Hello again.
It's all good. It's all good to have you here.
Hey there.
Excellent. And how about yourself, James? You good, man?
Yeah, I'm doing alright.
Been up to anything? You guys been up to anything good this week at all, or?
Unfortunately, nothing particularly exciting at the moment. Pass it over to Doug.
Yeah, nothing thrilling. Just keeping up with the start of the year.
Doing that pandemic life.
I finally watched Don't Look Up.
Hey.
I still haven't watched that, and I've listened to you guys talk about it as well.
Well, I deliberately didn't listen to the tail end of last week's podcast just so I could
did.
actually watch it. And it was amazing. So I'm definitely taking that recommendation highly next time.
I like the premise of it, so I might still watch it, even though I kind of know what happens.
Yeah, no, it's an experience.
Yeah, no, I'd say do watch it. I mean, it was top, as you can tell from last week, it was top of my list of films of last year. Again, I thought it was an important film at an important time, and I love my satires. It was well written.
Yeah, I've been thinking about watching The Big Short at some point because it's on. I saw it advertised on Netflix, so I thought, well, I might give this a go, then see what it's actually like. And it's nice to actually have an in-depth conversation or actual talk about the films at the top of your list. Not trying to avoid every single secret possible, James. Though everyone can see Eternals now, so that's on Disney Plus, so that'd be pretty good to check out. But yeah, so obviously, as we just said, last week we delved into our top movies of 2021, and it was a pretty interesting selection of films. Some definitely caught off guard moments, which I'll definitely add into my list, especially that My Octopus Teacher documentary film.
Yeah.
Yes. No, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what Doug does this week. Just to be an outlier and try and catch us off guard. That'd be pretty good, man.
5 extremely strange games we've all never heard of that were made by like a person and a toaster.
I'm not trying. There's just interesting things out there that people don't talk about.
Honestly, that is the best way. Yeah, it's so the best way. But this week we will actually be exploring the top 5 games played in 2021. Now, note I've stated played as we do have a few titles which came out before last year. We want to explore games we've enjoyed, but either by discovering them through though released outside of 2021, or games which had updates or were actually released last year on other platforms. So we want to expand the discussion, we want to expand the games people play, and actually find some nice hidden gems out there. Obviously, mentioning hidden gems, further episodes down the line we'll actually have like a little discovery corner. Chaz was actually the one that suggested this because Chaz actually has is known for having a long list of films that he's working his way through.
Yeah, films that when I say I haven't seen them, people always react like, "How have you not seen that?" So yeah.
Yeah, so I'm known for like recommending stuff to people, and Chaz just looks at me like, "Oh, for fuck's sake, Nate, I just added to the goddamn list." But yeah, so he suggested a little discovery corner, title pending. So to anything we've discovered by ourselves, by friends, or by you, the listeners. So yeah, but before we actually get into the conversations today, I thought we'd have a little bit of a roundtable introduction on what sort of games we actually like, and what sort of titles we actually do prefer to play, and actually may come into play with the sort of titles which may crop up on our list. So James, you want to start us off?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, one of my favourite genres is probably strategy games, mainly turn-based strategies these days. Like my old man turn-based strategies. But I also love my immersive sims. It's probably, I mean, Deus Ex Original was probably the key game which got me into gaming in a big way. So, yeah, those are my 2 favourite genres: turn-based and immersive sims.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I do like a good turn-based. I only actually got into really turn-based strategies more when I actually finally played XCOM. XCOM 2. I was actually put onto that by my housemate, and he could tell I was playing that game a lot because the Starship Troopers theme song would start playing in my room. It's sort of like an introduction to me actually starting to play that game. To be honest, how about yourself, Doug?
So generally, I'm quite an enjoyer of indie games. Like I used to be big into the multiplayer shooters and like Battlefield 2142. I spent many hours in, and some other things. But I feel like I kind of moved on from that, and so now in games I look for stories or things that make me think or give me new ideas, which tend to mean a lot of narrative games, some puzzle games as well. Like I like puzzle games that kind of make me feel smart or try like give me ideas and things. But yeah, that's probably the best way to describe the kind of games I'm into.
Yeah, I have seen some of the games you played, and yeah, they do seem really nice, interesting. I think I'm gonna possibly prod you for some ideas at some point, add to my list and everything. So that'd be a good idea. Chaz, how about yourself, dude?
Hey, so yeah, primarily I play like a lot of the same games. I play games that, I think they call it, they have a long tail, they're live service stuff. But in between those, I like indie games. I'm a PC gamer primarily. Like strategy games, simulation games, and the odd random game that falls outside of there. I play the odd platformer and horror game as well.
Yeah, 'cause you like is it Abe's Odyssey you enjoy?
Abe's Odyssey, Abe's Exodus, yeah, two of my favorite games.
Yeah, yeah, because I remember you having a nice nice chat we had about that before, and yeah, that's awesome. And Jordan, how about yourself, man?
So I'm primarily into like role-playing games. I used to be a humongous fan of World of Warcraft, but I kind of gotten back into mostly single-player games. Um, Basically because I'm really into like immersive, engaging stories, and you know I feel like especially with COVID having been a thing, it makes you forget like the drudgery of life. So yeah, RPGs are basically top of my list of games that I enjoy, but I'm also a big fan of FPS games. I love Overwatch, and I'm desperately awaiting the release of Overwatch 2 whenever the fuck that's gonna happen. But someday I'll get my grubby little hands on that. And yeah, that's me.
Did you see about the Lego set that's possibly getting released for that?
I mean, there's like 3 or 4 different Lego sets at this point now. The Hammond, I should probably say its actual title, the Wrecking Ball Lego set has been in like my Amazon wish list for about 2 years straight.
Thanks for the Christmas gift idea there, Nate.
Yeah, no, I, I'll probably own some Overwatch figures one day, but like Blizzard has a tendency to make figures that are extremely beautiful but also extremely expensive, so won't be anytime soon.
Yeah, fair enough. Cool. And myself, as people generally know, I tend to be into my AAA games. Really, people are quite shocked how I get through big sprawling 60-hour campaign games with heavy narratives in like such a short amount of time. And I really, I've got a family member, so obviously you can share games with people, and I don't think my family member of mine has bought a game in like 2.5, 3 years. So he's just basically just leeched off my games, really, to be honest. And it's been the cheapest 3 years for him, but he switched to Xbox now, so he's actually enjoying Game Pass and getting back into that. He's finally going through. He's playing all the Gears of Wars games again, and he's finally playing Halo. Going to finally play Infinite and everything. But yeah, no, I'm primarily into those sorts of games. Really, I've got a big love for Spider-Man. Loved that game. Thought it was one of the best games in the last 10 years. I do really enjoy the game Days Gone. It wasn't obviously mixed reviews, but I actually really enjoyed it. Obviously, a big fan of the main actor Sam Witwer. But yeah, that's mine really. That's so yes, that is everyone's game. What games they enjoy. So that's awesome, everyone. Cool. Right, so the way we're going to do this, people, is if you listened to us last week for our top 5 movies, we're going to go around each person. We are going to get our top 5s, and then we will go on to the next person after that, and after that, and after that, and then we'll go into top 4 and so on and so forth. But if someone mentions a game that's higher on someone else's list, we will have a brief talk about that first, and then we will have a more detailed conversation later on. Before we get to our top list, though, we do have a few honorable mentions on the list that didn't make it quite to our lists, but we thought we'd put them in there anyway because sometimes games just don't get onto that list, but you still have a good love for them, and you just want to mention them and see how they go. So yeah, James, do you have any honorable mentions yourself?
Not this time, no.
Wow, that's That's a good one. I'm surprised, James. You do have some honorable mentions. Fair enough. Cool. Well, we will keep rolling then. Doug, how about yourself, man?
Yeah, so I've got a few honorable mentions just that they were good parts of last year, but they're not they're not a full game or they're just kind of ongoing. So I mean, one of the honorable mentions for me is Jackbox in general. Because like especially right now, like Jackbox is almost like a corner of life in itself. It's like a public service for all the lockdown parties we have.
To
But
be
I
the
was
fair,
other,
literally going to say the same thing.
yeah.
yeah,
That and Classic Phone.
Did they
That's
release a
fine.
new update for Jackbox this year? I'd say that counts if so.
Powder Pack 8's come out. Yeah,
Oh, there you go.
it's good. But yeah, other couple of mines. I very recently played the Outer Wilds DLC, Echoes of the Eye, which is absolutely brilliant. Like I love the Outer Wilds game so much, and this DLC was a great way to kind of expand on what that world is already doing. It was just such a pleasure to be back in that world of curiosity of theirs.
Yeah. So Outer Wilds.
Outer Wilds,
Wilds,
yes,
yeah, yeah.
not like Outer Wilds, not Outer Worlds.
Outer Wilds. Don't
Yeah,
get confused with that. No. Uh,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, I love. I mean, I've enjoyed playing what I haven't played DLC, but I enjoyed playing what I played of the Outer Wilds. But I'm just terrible. But I don't think I've got anywhere near close to completing it.
Yeah. And the last one, just as a game I was really impressed with, and I actually expect to see more of as time goes on, is Splitgate. It was really fun to play. It's free. It's basically imagine Halo multiplayer, but there are portals in it, and it is super slick. It is a shooter where you get to feel really clever. That's really cool. I'm expecting a lot from that team because they're still kind of building up their gaming community. Those are mine. Those are my honorable mentions.
Splitgate, yeah, I may come back to Halo later actually, so that's actually nice. I might actually remember that for later. Chaz, how about yourself, dude?
Only a small one to be honest, because it's a small game. But there's a game called Dorf Romantic on Steam. It's basically just like a little chill. I guess it's a puzzle game. You kind of build the world out. It's tile based. It's just like super chill. The music's very calming, and it's just like if you want to, just load up a game for like 5-10 minutes and just play something that's like very easy on your mind. It's a good one to do. Yeah.
Nice. And Jordan, I'll take it over to you, dude.
Hey there. So yeah, my honorable mention is, well, I've got two technically, but they're both games that released like a few years prior. So the first one being Last of Us 2, mostly because it took up a lot of my first year of lockdown. I played that game to death, like more than I think many other people around me recommended, and I feel like it was an amazing addition to an already interesting and heartwarming, so to speak, or devastating is probably a better way of putting it. Uh, story that was Last of Us 1. And then the other was Death Stranding. They're still kind of releasing new content for that game, but again, it was another game that took up a lot of my time when it released. Absolutely phenomenal story, but it's one of those games where I feel like if you don't get into it right away, you're not gonna get it, because I think a lot of people had a similar reaction to like some folks in reviews where they were just like, "What the fuck is this game?" And it's very UI heavy, but I was absolutely blown away by it. So fuck all of them.
I still don't know what that game is really, but I don't know. It seems cool from what I understand of it.
You go walking with parcels with Daryl from The Walking Dead.
I get that bit, but I've heard there's some story shenanigans, but I don't know. I've not played it, so I don't know exactly what the deal is there.
I mean, it's Kojima, so it'll take a while to sort of get into the grooves of that story. Yeah, as John knows, I played around the same time as him, and like that game, I did not expect that game to be like 70 hours when I played it. Like it took so like, and I'm gonna like I'll admit I was one of those people that was skeptical about going into it because the first 10 hours is very it feels like you have to get through like the first 5 to 10 hours before you really know what the game is starting to be. Like you start getting you start understanding it more and everything. And obviously, I just bought the director's cut, and obviously other people, because I was fortunate enough to get a PS5. No digs. I know some people have been I jokingly said that before.
Some people are very bitter.
Yeah.
It's coming to PC, so it doesn't matter. My bitterness is gone.
Yeah, I was gonna say Jordan, but that answers that question. Yeah, but no, yeah. So that's coming to PC. I was actually gonna say that's coming to PC this year. So as well as Final Fantasy's just come out on PC for other people who actually want to play the DLC for that. I've heard there's been mixed things about that though for the PC version, which is frustrating. But yeah, no. But Death Stranding was very interesting. Myself, though, I've got 3. I won't go into them that much, but first one is Terminator Resistance. It's a game, to say the least.
You sound confident.
I mean, I think it's one of those games that has a very big nostalgic factor with me. Like, I love the Terminator series. I always have. The 84 film, I believe it was 84, freaked me out when I was younger, like when I was little. And I just had a huge passion for it ever since. And I loved the PlayStation 2 era dark fate games, or like third person. But this one was like you play as some I won't go into the details of characters, but you play some character in the future and everything, and you're dealing with Skynet, and you eventually intersect with other characters in the narrative, and it is an open world, so you actually do go around fighting different Terminators, different robot variations. But the game, so I feel the game has this sort of mid 2010 shooting aesthetic. It's not quite up to scratch as like games like Killzone that came out for the early PS4, but if they'll be actually really good to see where they go with that. It'd be really interesting, to be honest. My next one is Far Cry 6. So obviously, as mentioned earlier, I'm into my AAA big. I have to emphasize big games because this game's too huge, especially for Giancarlo Esposito, Gus Fring himself from Breaking Bad. It's set in like a take on Cuba, but it's not actually Cuba. And it's you play a character called Danny Reyes. You can actually be a male or a female. I chose the female version because weirdly enough, Ubisoft games, I feel their female actresses have actually been portraying the characters better. So this actually the same happened with Assassin's Creed as well. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. And there's a funny bit in the game where if you are flying around in a helicopter or even in a car and they've got the radio on and a popular song comes on, the actor in the game will start singing along badly. So when Living La Vida Loca comes on and they start singing, of course I'm going to put on my honorable mentions list. But no, yeah, I actually like the fact that the game actually gives a personality to the character now. Like, it goes third person in cutscenes. These people actually have full-on conversations. They actually give the character's personality in depth. And there's a whole side story with the son, and is he on the main character side, or is he with his father? And it's just like this toppling effect of like how this nation is built on a drug which is supposedly to help people with cancer, and how that factors in and how it manipulates people. And yeah, and I thought the ending was like, I got to the end of that game and I was like, oh fuck, I did not expect that to happen. So it caught me off guard, but just getting to that point did feel like it was definitely better than the other Far Cry games I've played and the other recent Ubisoft games I've played, which have been really good, but after a while I've just sort of petered off from them. Because like Assassin's Creed, I love the games. I found out there's a new expansion coming out that's actually 32 quid, standalone, because it's its own standalone game technically. So it's called Dawn of Ragnarok. Loads of Ragnarok games coming out, and but it just feels like because the worlds are so big now, I just get to a point now where I'm just sort of like, I'm starting to taper off from it. I just can't focus on it anymore. So and there's too many games coming out, so I
don't know how you have the time or the mental energy to constantly play games with maps so massive and so cram full of busy work, basically.
To be fair, I've actually been replaying Horizon Zero Dawn in preparation for Forbidden West to come out next month, and the map is quite big in that, and that map is smaller compared to, I believe it is smaller than Far Cry 6 and all those games. And I've just been going around like, after I finish work, I'll just be going around just like, getting collectibles or just doing the odd thing just to let my mind go and everything. So I do enjoy that sometimes, just like exploring the world and just letting my mind drift off and everything. But yeah, that was my I actually really enjoy it. I do recommend it. Maybe when it's on sale and everything, but I do recommend it. And my final one, now this is what I was on about re-releases earlier, because my final honorable mention is Mass Effect Legendary Edition. Now, yes, exactly. Not going to go into this game as much because if you've played it, you know. If you haven't played it, go down play it. And yeah, it's just an amazing trilogy. And people say 2 is better than 3, but I actually don't agree with them. I think 2 really took it to a new level. Like you don't know how many people are going to come back from this, and you have to actually prepare yourself for where the game's going. You actually do have to build your ship up, you have to build your characters up. Bad stuff could happen later on, and how the narrative carries over, I think, is brilliant all the way to the 3rd game.
I think 2, one of the things that affects this, I think 2 is so much more replayable than 3, because like I played through Mass Effect 2 I played it through 5 times, like trying different ways, doing different ways of it. One time was just a speed run where I was as ugly as possible and everybody died. It was great. But 3, I played through it, and the end I felt very done. I think it's because of like it felt like I expected more consequence. I expected more payoff for what I do, and actually, like and so I felt, oh well, I'm done. So I only played through Mass Effect 3 one time. I didn't even get the Citadel DLC. I felt very done.
No, I get that, and I think like I only really replayed Mass Effect for the first time in about, well, actually probably since the first one came out, just to see how it changed. And to be fair, replaying 1, like it's remastered, but the combat mechanics weren't updated to 2 or 3, so you felt how different it was to how they changed it to 2 and 3, and it was just like water and oil. It was just completely different, essentially.
I hope you like emptying out your inventory after every battle.
Yeah, just it was one, and yeah, I definitely agree with the consequences of 3. But getting up to the end of 3 was brilliant. I thought the narrative in 3 was brilliant, and all the repercussions. I actually, even though I knew this stuff, I did tear up a couple of points again. Even though I knew it was going to happen, I just thought it was really good. And the fact I know we're getting a direct sequel now, well, it's hinted at in the trailers, and supposedly there's supposedly 5 hints in the poster they put out recently, and I didn't even realize the poster they put out is in the shape of a geth. I didn't even realize that until the design, which I thought was really interesting. It took me a month and a half later to actually look at, and I am supposed to be an artist in air quotes, and I didn't even fucking realize that. So shame on me. But yeah, that is my 3rd honorable mention. So that is Mass Effect Legendary Edition. So everyone's honorable mentions out of the way. It's time to get to our top 5. So I'm going to start with James again. Do you want to give us your number 5 for 2021 you played?
Yeah, so number 5, I went for a game called Grift Lands. It's basically a card game with a little bit of a narrative. 3 different stories essentially, so 3 different characters you play with, all with slightly different mechanics to their card game, and there's a little bit of story in each of them as well. You can make different choices, and it also impacts like how the card games play out. So you can get like bonuses from various people who you befriend, and you get like negatives that affect the card battles if you make enemies with certain people. So it's got quite a lot of replayability, and yeah, I thought it was a nice little card game. If you like a card game with a narrative, I'd recommend it.
Awesome, excellent. That sounds pretty interesting. Different. I definitely love a game with different narratives. That sounds pretty awesome, man. Yeah, that's cool. So Doug, what is your top 5?
Okay, so I think most of my top 5 are actually going to seem more normal than you expect, except this one. This is quite simply, it's a game called Cryptic Crossword, and it is the mobile game that I just keep going back to whenever I'm waiting for something else. Like, it's just a huge compendium of cryptic crosswords. Like I said, I really like puzzles, and I can't ignore the fact that of the games I've played this year, there is a good chance that this mobile game has the hours on it, like more than any other. And yeah, it's 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 really nice. It's a satisfying thing. It's great to just like, and I'm waiting for something for 15 minutes, and it can just cool. It just eats that 15 minutes, and I get the satisfaction of doing another puzzle. So that's mine. Cryptic Crossword. It's made by a very small company called Teasel Limited.
So with a crypto crossword, it's like, do you have to solve puzzles to get to work on the crossword, or like?
Okay, so a cryptic crossword, you see them in a lot of newspapers. It's where rather than just being a crossword with a like it's the clue is a description of the thing, the clue is a word puzzle. So it like it would be something like Archer burglar in cowl or something, and the answer is Robin Hood. And the thing's going on, one, he's an archer, and then it's burgle in cowl or rob in hood. So it's just a word puzzle of the thing.
Pretty sure
But
one of
they get really fiendish and really difficult, and I find them really satisfying.
That sounds like that would go right over my head. That one.
I'm pretty sure one of my old teachers used to create cryptic crosswords for a newspaper. We went for a whole,
That's hardcore.
we pretty much went for a whole. It was pretty much a whole lesson while he was just teaching us how to do cryptic crosswords.
Awesome. Yeah, that's mine.
Nice. Chaz. So what is your number 5 pick?
Okay. So number 5. I'm surprised actually. It's more AAA than you guys. Is Crash Bandicoot 4. It's about time. So I actually played the first 3 when I was younger, and I really liked them. But pretty much every Crash game they made after that was like, well, main series anyway. They just kind of went off course and they got a bit weird. Crash 4, it's not the same company. It's made by Toys for Bob, I believe. It feels very much like next gen Crash. Pays homage to the originals really well. Gameplay is really smooth. The animation is so full of character and really, really fun to look at. I just had a lot of fun with it. For me as a kind of, I suppose, casual AAA player, it was fine. I have heard though that for completionists it's absolutely infuriating apparently, because you have to replay the levels 6, 7, 8, 9 times sometimes to get all the collectibles. But I enjoyed it.
I can't be. I know I have plenty of friends who are platinum, trophy hunters and everything, and I just can't do it. Once I've done it once, I'm like, okay, on to the next thing. I guess that what allows me to actually go on to the next big game to actually complete that one. But yeah, that's awesome. Right, Jordan, how about yourself, man?
So I don't have a top 5. I have a top 2, and the reason for that will become very apparent later on. So if it comes up sooner in conversation, I'll let you know.
Well, people, side throw us with a curveball there. We're gonna roll with it. We're gonna roll with it, people. And but the thing is, though, this is video games. Next week we'll be delving into a different subject, so maybe that'll change next week. So yeah, my number 5 is Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. So I only finally played the Ratchet and Clank games in the last couple of years. They did the remake on the PlayStation 4 for the original one. I never played any of the games when I was younger. Never played Spyro. Never played like Crash Bandicoot. Never really into them. And then in the last couple of years, I've just found a new appreciation for these titles really. So I've obviously bought the Spyro Reignited trilogy. Really enjoyed that. I think I only got up to 2 though, so I need to go back. And I played Ratchet and Clank, and then I think it was when I saw the initial video for this and like just the transitioning between the different dimensions instantaneously, I thought, oh, that must be like, staged or whatnot, it must be like, all that stuff. But I played the game and I was just shocked, like honestly, hopping from one world to the next instantaneously there's no cut. It's just like press a button, you just go. Like it's there's like race sections where you're like on this back of this really speedy snail type thing, and you're just hopping through different dimensions really fast and everything just to get through them. I think the cast is brilliant. Ratchet and Clank, there's another Lombax this time, a female Lombax, and she has her own personal story, as well as another character which I won't spoil. But that character also intersects with the new Lombax, which I thought was pretty interesting. And it's dealing with like Dr. Nefarious is like going into another dimension and trying to take over the universe, because that's the way those things go. Obviously, other characters appear. That was actually a game I actually did go back and enjoy replaying. So it's actually one of the rare games. I didn't go back to play it for the trophies. I just went back to like get all the gun upgrades and everything, and it was just it was so it's so gorgeous as well. Like the lighting, the animation, yeah.
I remember seeing a video which was showcasing games for the PS5, and I remember just kind of, because I'm not so into AAA games these days, so I remember thinking, yeah, that's all right, that's all right. And then it got to Ratchet and Clank, and I remember thinking that genuinely shows off the power and the capacity of this new console. I think that to me stood out as the best example on that list of games, at least, that I watched.
I mean, yeah, and it's insane because obviously it was made by Insomniac Games, and Insomniac have just been ridiculously pumping out these titles and like all amazing titles. Like, so they had Spider-Man, after Sunset Overdrive. So obviously Insomniac is known for Spyro series, which I kind of play, but now I have the Resistance video games, which I totally forgot on the PlayStation 2 and 3 era. I believe it was PlayStation 2. The World War II Alien games, Sunset Overdrive, which I actually need to go back to play, and yeah, Spider-Man series. So they released Spider-Man, then they did Miles Morales on PS4, then PS5 re-released, then they remastered Spider-Man as well and made it look so much better, and then they did this, and now they're doing like obviously Spider-Man 2, and they shocked everyone by announcing they're doing Wolverine, which I don't know if it's fully confirmed. I have to double check, but it's basically set in the same universe as the Spider-Man game, so they actually create this interconnected universe. And it was only like a 50-second trailer, but people lost their shit because they did not expect, oh, maybe it's like a different type of Spider-Man game or linked to him. So Wolverine was not, and supposedly they're hiring people, and people think there might be dismemberment in it, but we don't know. But it might be amazing. But yeah, that company is just like the top tier developer, one of the top tier developers for me at the moment. I can't wait to see what they do next and how to improve Spider-Man, because that was chef's kiss, really. But yeah, that was Ratchet and Clank was my number 5. So yeah, that's cool. James, do you want to take us to your number 4?
So a bit of curveball. Before the number 4, can I mention my honourable mention, which I've just remembered?
Winding it back.
I do have an honourable mention. I'm going to mention Siege Survival Gloria Victus as my honourable mention. So it's basically, it's a look. Think of it like this War Among Us set in a siege. You're basically a civilian inside a siege, trying to survive. You're scouting supplies from the city during the night, and making arrows and weaponry in the day, then giving them to the soldiers to try and beat back the attackers until reinforcements can arrive. I've enjoyed what I've played with it, and I love the concept, but I never really played enough of it to justify me putting it in my top 5. But because I love the concept so much, I will chuck it in as an honourable mention. Now I'll stop devoting this and back to my number 4. My number 4 is Inscription. So what I'm going to say is it's a Daniel Mullins game. If you haven't played any of his games, play this one first. It's another card game. It's a good card game, but I don't want to give too much away. There's a bit of a story to the game, and there's a lot of unexpected elements to it, and it goes in some wild and interesting directions.
I'm looking forward to playing Inscription. It's on my list because I played one of his previous games, Pony Island, and yeah, there's not much like it. That was a ride.
I want to play both of those. I've heard some cool things about Pony Island, and also, yeah, same thing about Inscription. They're definitely both got my attention because I like the kind of games where they throw unexpected things at you. And if they can break the fourth wall, that's usually pretty awesome as well. So
yeah, and I've been playing the Hex at the moment actually, which is another Daniel Mullins game. So once you finished Inscription, then Pony Island, give the Hex a go. It's pretty decent so far.
And they're both only a few hours long, right? Or at least I know Pony Island is very short.
Yeah, I think Inscription is a lot longer than both those games. Inscription's much meatier.
Fair.
Well, it depends how bad you are at card games. So, but it's good.
No, I've actually been listening to a few of the podcasts and like reviews, and it has actually been at the top of a lot of people's list. Inscription has it's ridiculous, and how this game has just jumped above so many other titles to be like people's number one, or like just trying to get in there and everything. But yeah, so that is James's number 4, Inscription, as well as his honorable mention as well. So, Doug, do you want to let's hop onto your number 4.
Okay, so my number 4 is from the indie bracket of stuff. This is Spiritfarer, and this it's a brilliantly made game. It's so full of depth and character. But yeah, this is one of what I would class as sad indie games. Like it's for anyone that doesn't know, the premise is it's presented in a very cartoony, quite Ghibli-esque way. There's a lot of Ghibli influence with the kind of animalistic spirits, and the kind of friendliness and the obsession with food. But
It's also ridiculously beautiful.
yeah,
Like the style is so
game.
nice.
yeah. But yeah, but it's all about death. So you effectively take over from the ferryman at the beginning, and you're this young girl called Stella, and she has a little cat Daffodil, and the pair of you are looking after spirits with unfinished business on your big old fantasy like a hotel boat, like feeding them, helping them find the kind of closure to their stories, and then taking them away. And it explores a lot of very powerful, very authentic responses to death, and realities of what's going on when people die. And some of it's very, very impactful. This might sound strange, but I haven't actually finished it though, because while it's close, it does get a bit grindy as it goes on, and so there's a lot of just having to do late enough in the game. You're kind of just doing a lot of the same things over and over again. And while I wanted to get to the end of the story, so it's a bit of a drudge. But for the time I was playing it, it's so brilliantly made and so impactful, so well written and built. So that's my number 4, Spiritfarer.
Nice, yeah. I've actually seen a few friends. Actually, I think I saw you playing it at one point. You may have streamed it at one point, and got a couple of pairs who streamed that. It does look a gorgeous game, and I think I've actually just been trying to find games that keep me in a happy mood, or in a somewhat happy mood. So I've heard like certain types of games. That was probably not one of them to maybe not do as much, but I think it's something I'll definitely be revisiting later in the year. So maybe it's one of those games we revisit later on in another episode as another re-review of it.
Say it's a game that's 95% of the time it's really uplifting, and the other 5% it is maximum void. So yeah. There you go.
Yeah, I don't need those dips right now.
Okay.
Chaz, how about yourself, man? What's your number 4?
Okay, another perhaps surprising one for me at least. New Pokemon Snap. I really loved the original. I was massively into Pokemon when I was younger, but I never owned the original. So I played it at friends and family's house sometimes, and then I got a copy many years later, played it again, and it's a very short game. So there was years that we were waiting for a sequel, a long time, and new Pokemon Snap, I think it delivers really well on that promise. It's a good sequel. The new one expands on it, the original premise a lot. It looks really good, and seeing the different Pokemon in kind of like a wildlife setting is something quite different. You don't really see that a lot with modern games that are coming out, apart from perhaps what's that new title that's coming out? Pokemon.
Okay, Arcanus or
Yeah,
something like that? Yeah.
Pokemon Infinite, I think it's called.
I think it's Pokemon. Is there one about the first Pokemon trainer?
No, it's the one with the free roaming Pokemon.
Yeah,
game.
yeah. I think it's
Yeah.
the first Pokemon trainer, I think, or something like that.
Yeah.
With wooden Pokeballs.
but yeah, my point I'm trying to make is a lot of the mainstream games that came out in Pokemon were very, they're quite similar. So Pokemon Snap just did something, it
Just to
was.
say, the new game is called Pokemon Legends Arceus, or
That's it.
Arceus,
That's
however
it.
you pronounce it.
Arceus, yes. But yeah, they did some really interesting stuff with alternate routes, different times of day, and basically, I'm just really glad they finally made it.
Honestly, yeah, I think after playing Breath of the Wild, I just went. I just want I would just want a Pokemon game like this. Like I loved the Pokemon games growing up. I loved Pokemon Stadium. Battling out in the stadiums on the Nintendo 64. Something different. But playing Breath of the Wild, I was like, we need a completely 3D open world Pokemon game. But when they announced this, I was like, yes, this is the time.
It looks very cool, I must admit. Pokemon Legends Arceus, yeah. Definitely keeping an eye on it. It must be out soon, I think, right?
I think it's within the next month, actually. Yeah, it's in the next few weeks. Yeah,
28th, it's out.
2 weeks. Yes, I will be buying that myself.
Yep, definitely keep an eye on reviews and see how that one looks.
Yeah, I'll definitely I'll probably buy a copy and probably review on here actually. And yeah, maybe I'll once I've done Chaz, maybe I'll lend it to you so you can play it.
Oh, thank you, man.
Yeah. But that's Chaz's number 4. Pokemon Snap.
New Pokemon Snap.
New Pokemon Snap is actually cool though, or is it just the new added on there?
I'm just checking. I feel like they did actually call it New Pokemon Snap.
Fair enough. But no, yeah, honestly, I really enjoyed Pokemon when I Pokemon Snap. I actually remember, weirdly, I had the first time I was introduced to Pokemon Snap, I was actually introduced to Dragon Ball Z the same day. It was a very
Oh,
weird day.
what a
like,
day.
I know, like it was the middle of the Frieza saga. I went around my friend's house, Cartoon Network on a Sunday, and he just had Pokemon Snap and Dragon Ball Z, and I was focusing on taking pictures of Pikachu at first, but then I was like, what is this green-haired man?
Good
Green?
friend.
Yellow-haired man. Why did I say green? I should be ashamed of myself.
I just checked. It really is called New Pokemon Snap.
What a title! Very on point.
Pokemon Snap to me sounds like some kind of apocalyptic event in a Pokemon kingdom where half Pokemon disappear.
Oh yeah, I didn't think about that. It's got a bit of a new context now, hasn't it, since
Yeah.
Avengers?
Pokemon Rapture. No, but that is Chaz's number 4. So we're gonna leapfrog over Jordan because he is gonna hold out till number 2. So I will go to my number 4, which is Resident Evil Village. Yeah. So this game I was really shocked by. I've played the recent titles. I tried to play like Resident Evil 7 a few years ago, but unfortunately someone broke the immersion for me, so I just didn't go back. And I thought the aspect of the first person turning the game first person was actually really intriguing from this point of view. Obviously, I think they've tried first person before, on a cruise ship, with the light gun back in the day on the PlayStation 1 or 2.
I played that. That was Resident Evil Survivor.
That was it.
It wasn't a cruise ship, but it was an on rails shooter game. It was a kind of I think it was kind of in the world or a bit of a retell of Resident Evil 2. It was those monsters. Yeah, which is interesting, which is good in its own way, but it was quite limited.
Yeah, but I thought the house aspect of 7 was brilliant, and the family was awesome and creepy and scared the shit out of me. And going into 8, it's a different experience. It's not as scary. Well, mostly as 7. It's more hornier, a lot hornier, because I mean, like, come on, they pretty much advertised that game with Lady Dimitrescu like on the forefront there. Like,
Did you guys see one of the things they made as like an advertising ploy was that they made like a fucking 10-foot long towel with her on it?
Yeah.
No,
And
it
it's just
surprised
like
me.
that's amazing.
It's so good. I have loved what Lady Dimitrescu has been this year because she's like the fact that she's a fan service that's really confused half the market who aren't into the Lady Dimitrescu kind of character. And so wait, who's into this? And then you've got the rest of the internet who just can't stop demanding that she step on them.
Didn't she win a Steam award very recently for her
she
voice
won the
acting?
she won the game award.
Performer.
The voice actress. Yeah, she won the game award for it, and it was just amazing in itself. To be honest, like that game though, from what you've seen, is nothing compared to what's actually in the game. What they mainly advertised was the first quarter of the game, which is ridiculous. And I was shocked how long that game actually was. So the premise of the game is like you're sent to this like Middle Eastern village essentially, and you have like a central hub location where you can go off to different locations. You can break
See,
off.
I guess it's technically Eastern Europe.
I
don't
would
think
say
it's
Eastern Europe.
Middle East is a bit far.
Yeah, Eastern Europe. Yeah.
I mean, it's technically closer than like West Europe, I suppose. You know, it's pretty east, I guess. Is it set like Transylvania or some shit?
Something
Like
like that.
Romania in general.
I think yeah.
The name's quite a Romanian name, so I think that's kind of where they're pitching the game. Yeah.
Yeah, but no. So you obviously you enter this village. You're playing again as Ethan Winters from Resident Evil 7.
It might be worth mentioning, like spoilers before you go too far into it.
No. I'm not going to spoil anything at all. It's just a case of like, obviously you play as Ethan Winters. That's actually from the main promotional material, so there's no spoilers there at all. I don't know if you care about stuff that's been in the trailers or anything. I don't know if you're okay there. Basically, there's an incident that happens with his wife, and he has to go to this place to actually like see what's going on. And a certain other character, Chris Redfield, turns up at some point. So he's hench as ever, punching boulders. He doesn't punch boulders in this, I can say that. But no, it's just the game itself it's more of an action-based game. That obviously there's like machine guns in it now and all this stuff, and there's werewolves and there's vampires and and there's an entire section of that game which scared the living shit out of me. Like I was freaked out by the noises, the visual, like the sound effects scared the shit out. I don't know if you've seen any of the videos of this, but
See, I know exactly what you're talking about.
yeah, that section was just like you're in the dark, the sound effects playing, and if it sees you, it just it was just so tense. And that's only like halfway through the game. Well, it depends on the way you want to go, but that's halfway through the game for me. And I got to the end of the game, and I've never really felt like that emotional at a Resident Evil game, but I got to the end and I was like, this is actually a really good story. How they've continued the story from 7 to 8, and you trying to figure this stuff out, and the ending is just so good, and it's so I actually I know my friends was like, what are you going on about? I was in that. I was like, well, for me, I actually got quite emotional with it. I got quite tearful because it, didn't make me relate to something I was feeling at the time. I won't spoil because it actually goes to the spoilers, but the actual story itself, I just thought was brilliant, and I definitely recommend it. Like it's on, I think it's on sale every now and then now. And what if you don't want to play 7, you just want to go straight into this? They do have like a revisit at the beginning, but then I just recommend watching a video on YouTube just to catch up and just going into this. But the mercenaries mode as well was actually quite good as well. It's quite difficult, but the different levels of villains as well is just ridiculous. And yeah, I highly recommend this game. So yeah, that's my number 4.
I was gonna say, I've heard a lot of people kind of like referring to this game as like a revival of Resi 4, and while I haven't played the game firsthand myself, I can definitely see why they feel that way about it. It looks very visually similar, but obviously the stories are very different. But I definitely think of the Resident Evil games that I've like, I guess say let's played, because I've just watched a lot of content from other people because I'm far too much of a wuss to get through some of these
I did
kinds
the
of
same
games.
with 7.
And yeah, like it was one of the Resident Evil games that I was like, man, I wish I actually had played this instead of just like wussing out of playing it. But my housemate actually played that game. He played that section you're talking about whilst hungover, so he was like
Oh no!
doubly upset about the situation he was presented with. Yeah, I've never laughed so hard when he told me that.
You guys are making me want to check this out because I enjoyed 7.
It is so good.
7 was very immersive and just pretty cool. And very, very disturbing. Maybe let's check out 8.
Yeah, no, I'm like they do bring a merchant back this time, and he is great in
What
himself.
a wonderful boy.
I mean,
hefty boy.
He's called the Duke, and just like when you go near him, or if you're like near, you're like, "Where's the Duke?" You just hear it sounds like, like he just makes these like low.
Ethan Winters.
Yes, Ethan Winters, welcome back. But it's like it's raw again, but he is how he gets around in that carriage or how he gets this stuff. I'd like to know.
Actually, you almost might not want to know. Like, I'm not sure I want to know.
I mean, there's a lot of like physical impracticalities in this game. Like you know, a guy in his carriage is like the lowest on the list of how things work in Resident Evil.
That's true.
Yeah, no, and they do actually. There's actually some interesting things without going into spoilers that much. They do actually answer some questions which people were querying about like the main characters and like how stuff works there, which is actually really interesting. I think Jordan may know what I'm going on about there. Like specific characters, how they work, but they are doing DLC for it. So the DLCs for the other ones were actually really good. They actually did 2 in the End of Zoe and another one, I believe. But and this is how Chris was introduced in the DLC, so I'm actually very intrigued how they're gonna do it. Oh, actually, was it the end of the DLC? I apologize, it might not have been, because I just played it in one. But yeah, when the DLC comes out, I'm looking forward to when that gets announced, and I will definitely be playing it. So yeah, that's my number 4, and I definitely recommend checking out. I think it's only about 12 hours, 10-12 hours in total, if you
That's
push
good.
it. Yeah, it's not a long game, but it's a very dense game. Like, and yeah, not as in like if you're stupid, you know, you have to try and figure out. Well, I was at times trying to figure out the puzzles because the puzzles are back. And there are some very tricky enemies, and they're like very tricky later on. Like, almost, I don't get angry at games sometimes, but I was getting frustrated. But when you figure it out, you feel so satisfied when you've done it. But yeah, that's my number 4.
I was just going to add there as well. Like, I think that was one of kind of the chief complaints about Resi 8 was just how, I guess, inaccessible it can be at times because the entire game is like grey. Like they're in a really bleak kind of miserable winter setting in the middle of nowhere, and everything's like broken and fucked and whatever. And so it meant a lot of people spent a lot of time just going around in circles because they were just like, why can't I find like the door I'm supposed to go to, or why can't I find this random item on the floor? And it's because it all kind of blends in. But I mean, a lot of the Resident Evil games are kind of like that. With I guess the exception of like Resi 7 because it's like first person and it's in a house. So
Still pretty
it's
drab
claustrophobic,
and
you can
grey and
see you can follow some form of path, whereas this is a bit more open world, and so you're kind of walking around. It's like, oh, it didn't occur to me that I had to walk through this like thing that looks like a wall, but it's actually grass. So yeah,
No, I actually had those issues quite a bit, and also been able to jump over stuff. Can you jump over? I can't remember. It's been a few months now. But yeah, no, there was a couple of sections where I had to crawl under something. I didn't realize it was there, and that may be one of the end points. Because obviously, you know, there are these people who go through and actually memorize maps, so they can like speed run later on and everything. And getting through that map can be quite tricky. When you get to the other sections in the game, there's one section in particular near the end that's similar to the initial section, but when you get to Dimitrescu Castle near the beginning, there's not spoilers because you know that's pretty much what they advertised in the trailers. I loved that scene. I thought it was for visually stunning and everything, and it does look gorgeous. The game, you know, I'm looking forward to where they go next. And they have said that I think they have confirmed this that the next one will, like the official 9, will be sort of like the end of the story essentially. So it is a 3-part story, which I think is really awesome because they don't do this in many Resident Evil games. They don't have like a 3-act story for these characters, and when you get to the end of 8, you'll definitely be intrigued to how it goes from there, and if they have an offshoot. So yeah, that's my number 4.
on a side note, shout out to Yoshi Chief. He did a speed run of Resident Evil 8 as part of a charity event a few months back over Christmas. So yeah, well done to him, and check him out if you can.
So we're gonna go on to our number 3s now. James, do you want to give us our number 3 for you?
Yeah, so my number 3 is a strategy game, Humankind. It's basically like a civilization style game, but with Amplitude's kind of like mechanics from like Endless Legend. So it's pretty good.
Cool. Yeah, no, I've definitely been meaning to check that game out. To be honest, definitely been meaning to check that out.
it's definitely got a different take on culture and how you handle those in those type of games. I played a lot of Civ and I played some Humankind, and just being able to kind of mold your culture depending on what civilization you kind of want to follow through, and then you can change it as you go along. it's an interesting take. I do need to put more time into it, I think.
So yeah, got any more points, James?
But I think Chaz basically mentioned a lot of my key points. I mean, I really like the combat system. I think that really changes how it plays compared to Civ games.
Now that's a good point. Yeah, the combat is probably better actually.
I think it's a lot better than the Civ games. I think that to me that's a strong point of humankind.
Awesome, great, excellent. Thank you very much, James. That's James's number 3. Doug, let's hop over to you for your number 3.
Okay, my number 3. This one I think people can probably see coming. This one is Hades. And I'm not sure if it came out in 2021. That's when I played it. Deal with it. Like I think I did 100 runs in total. But it's like I'm a massive Supergiant Games fanboy, and they didn't let down with this one either. It's so much fun, like with the kind of the roguelike ongoing building thing, but the fact that they've worked a narrative into the fact that you die and keep going back. And it's just so compelling. I'm always ready for another run. It's always going to be different. All the gods and different characters are really fun. Personally, I'm something of a Poseidon stan. He's my man.
Yep.
Yeah, he's the man. But it's it's brilliant writing. Artistically well delivered, plays really well. Yeah, very compelling. The I could dare to criticize a couple of accents, but because they're all the English accents, and some of them don't quite work for me. Like if I want to go into detail, like I found a bit of a dissonance with the main character Zagreus, who he had a fairly well spoken and English accent, but then kept dropping the word mate in.
You're right. That does sound a bit odd now that I think about it. Yeah.
Yeah, because it kind of it's the wrong kind of English accent to drop the word mate in. Like normally it's more of a Cockney City regional accent, and you rarely pronounce the T. It's like it's mate. Like I know, good on you, mate. You don't pronounce that T, but
Doug,
yeah.
I can say it did come out. Well, it came out on some platforms in 2021, and I know this because it's also on my list.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So we will be revisiting that later then.
Yeah, but yeah, I think that's as much as I need to say on Hades. Fantastic game, and forever looking forward to whatever Supergiant Games do next. I'm absolutely astonished by what they do as a team.
Awesome, excellent. Well, we'll probably have more of a little bit of a discussion on that when we come to it next. So Chaz, do you want to give us your number 3?
Yes, and I suspect this one won't surprise anybody. It did come out in 2021. It's World of Warcraft Classic: The Burning Crusade. So you guys know this, but I'm a huge WoW fan. However, World of Warcraft it's been out for 15 years now, or more so actually, and slowly the game has evolved in a direction that I'm not a fan of. And private servers were always a thing to play. What I would call my favorite version of the game, the older versions. And years ago, the biggest one got shut down. And I followed the saga. I won't go too much into it, but basically Blizzard shut it down and said, and the player said, why don't you make us a server so we can actually play on it legit? And it took years, but they did, and that was one of my best moments in gaming, that they re-bought that out. And then obviously last year, the Burning Crusade came out. It improved on Classic in most ways. There's some things that some fans would argue they made it worse, but pretty much universally loved. And I have a really good gaming memory attached to this, because in the week it came out, I took a week off and played it. I rushed to 70 with some friends. We played solidly like 7 days in a row, and we had a blast. So yeah, really good memories on that one. And yeah, always grateful that game is a thing that exists now.
Awesome. Right. So my number 3, Deathloop. So I don't know if we'll be talking about this later.
We'll talk about this later.
Okay, good to know then. Very brief talk on it now. I thought it was brilliant. By the time this game came out, I thought I'd seen everything. because it was just there was so many trailers for it, there's so many advertisements, promotions for it. I was just like, can I just have the game come out now? Because I think I've seen everything. It turns out I was wrong. There was just so much more behind it. I just thought it was brilliant. We'll definitely get into more of a discussion later on that. And yeah, but that is my number 3. So right, as my number 3, we are going to hop over Jordan one more time to go to the number 2s, which Jordan will join in on. And but James, do you want to give us your number 2?
Yep. So my number 2 is a bit of a cheat, but since it came out in December 2020, and most of my time playing it is 2021, I'm counting it, and that is Cyberpunk 2077. So
That is also on my list.
I'm guessing we might be talking about this later.
Shocker.
It's will we talk about it later, Jordan?
I mean, we might as well talk about it now. It is my number 1 pick, but we can talk about it now.
Talk about it for more detailed discussion when it comes to number 1.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Well then, as you see, people starting to hop into mixed games now with more discussions going on later on, so that's pretty awesome. So Doug, do you want to give us your number 2?
Okay, so my number 2 in this one is a VR title, and I double check, like, this one, it did come out in 2020, but it wasn't. I didn't have the ability to play it. I think pretty much until 2021 when I got everything set up with the Oculus Quest. It's Half-Life Alyx, and it's I was always a huge fan of the Half-Life series at the time. Big support of the way Valve make games and the time and effort they put into their games, the way they design them to be such intuitive, satisfying experiences, and was amazing to see after all these years they'd lost none of it. Like playing Half-Life Alyx was everything you did was just so satisfying, or the things you thought were your like, I wonder if the game would do this. Oh wow, it does this. Oh, that's so cool. Just like even picking up stuff on the ground and think, hey, I think it was the one you have a gun and you have a torch. Hey, I wonder if I would do if I did the kind of the close combat thing where you hold like the torch over the gun over your wrist and the torch in the other. And I just tried that because that'd be cool. And it locked in place to be perfectly zoomed. And they just, oh, it feels so good. But then there are times they tricked me with it as well. Like there's a couple of quite scary, extremely tense bits later in the game. And without giving anything away, there's a bit where I'm rooting through stuff. I open a cupboard door, and a glass bottle has been pitched at the right thing, so it starts rolling out, and you've got just like a second and a half to grab it before it falls on the ground and smashes. I grabbed it, but I was just like cursing the developers. It's like, oh, you bastards, you got me. It was just like that. From start to finish, I was so impressed, and it is, yeah, I could see why everyone that's playing VR that has played that game won't stop talking about it. So worth it. That's my number 2, Half-Life Alyx.
I got an Oculus last year as well, and the games I've played are like Vader Immortal, which I played for about 40 minutes in the middle of summer, which was a bad idea because I felt like I couldn't breathe afterwards and I'd sweat buckets. Though holding a lightsaber in that game is brilliant. Also Resident Evil 4, I actually bought in VR. The free movement on it, so there's obviously like location, transport, teleporting. There's free movement. I think may have to buy sick bands for myself because it was a bit nauseous, like moving my head around at the same time, and the free camera.
I was the same with Half-Life Alyx, unfortunately. Walking around while not actually walking was really messing my head. I think I need to use the teleport function more.
Yeah, and Half-Life Alyx is definitely on the top of my list throughout Oculus.
VR is getting really exciting. I'm actually just looking for like when people start getting into making really boring VR games that are just about chilling out and being somewhere else. I don't know if that's the pandemic setting in, but that's like that was really nice. And sometimes in 2021, like VR Poker Stars was so good to just like feel like you're somewhere with a few people and just like chilling out in a chair.
I mean,
that was nice.
Do they have the cinema thing yet? Because I know you can watch cinema films, but
there are multiple VR cinema apps. I think Big Screen was the one that I had a look at with a friend of mine, and it's cool. You can choose different locations to sit in. Like we can be sat in alpine forest, watching on a big screen, throwing tomatoes at each other. It's good biz.
And you talk
It's,
to each other for like, can you turn to each other and talk to each other? And
Yeah, it's like being sat on the same bench. It's awesome.
see, that's what we need. That's what we need.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Awesome, excellent. Thank you very much, Doug. Right, Chaz, what is your number 2, man?
Cool. Yeah. So my number 2 is Halo Infinite. So, bit of background: I used to be a massive Halo fan. Played a bunch online up until Halo Reach. I tried 4, was pretty disappointed with that. Didn't even bother with 5. And
We will come back to that actually.
what's that? Halo Infinite?
Yeah, we will be coming back to it soon.
Oh, okay. All right. I'll just finish my current train of thought then. Yeah, and obviously Halo Infinite. I didn't pay too much attention to it because I just lost a little bit of faith in 343. But yeah, the multiplayer was free. I thought I'll give it a go, and the gameplay just like grabbed me instantly. It felt like old, old multiplayer Halo. It was great, but more refined for modern day. So yeah, Halo Infinite number 2 for me.
I feel like one of the only people that actually liked Halo 4. Like, I think I like sad or miserable games. So like, so that one works for me. But but for people that actually like Halo, it's like it broke a lot of rules and did things differently. So yeah,
Yeah,
fine. But I liked it.
I don't know how much this stands up to it now, but I remember at the time people were saying that they kind of codified it because COD was very big, and they kind of took a lot of the gameplay from it, and it just wasn't quite Halo gameplay for me. Personally, that's why I bounced off.
I'll be honest with you, I did enjoy 4. I actually did quite enjoy Halo 4. Halo 3, I still think is like, I actually do prefer 3 to all the others because I think it's, the
3
combination.
is a great one, yeah.
Exactly, and obviously it gave us that intro trailer, which I thought was pretty awesome at the time, like the shield grenade like coming down, and I thought it was amazing back in the day.
There was such hype around Halo 3, such hype. It was so good.
And the problem was, I think Halo 5 tried to do the same hype, and it just didn't work as much. I liked they brought characters back though. Like I like the fact they brought Nathan Fillion back from ODST and everything. And I mean, one of my favorite Halo games is Reach. I
Yep.
know it's people don't like that game as much.
I loved Reach. Reach for me, great story, and the multiplayer was really, really fun. I spent the most time on multiplayer for Halo. Halo
Yep.
Reach, sorry.
Never played Halo Reach, but I did read a book, which is really good.
The ending to that game as well, like the post credits ending, like I thought was just brilliant for a game. It was my first experience of a type of mode that came later. I won't spoil it. I know it's been out for a while, but people might eventually want to play it. But if you know Halo Reach's timeline, pretty much know how it ends anyway. But I really enjoyed Halo 4. And yeah, that's awesome. So, thank you very much, Chaz. Right, so Jordan, do you want to give us your number 2?
So I have a feeling I know what's going to happen here, but my number 2 game of 2021 was Valheim, and yeah, I can see Doug's little face
Yeah,
nodding in solid agreement of being high on the list. It was an absolutely wonderful way to spend most of my free time, just building my villages and going on epic quests with Doug and various other folks who were online at the time, and it was just it was very immersive. I didn't think I would like it at first, but I got it because I think a few people had kind of basically said to me like, it's an amazing game. You should play it. You should play it. You should play it. You should fucking play it. And I was like, fine, okay, I'll get it. It's like £15. Let's just fucking get into it. And yeah, no, it was the best £15 I've ever spent. Like, there's so much going into it, and I love how dedicated the developers are into making it like not only just like an absolutely wonderful experience for the fans, but you can tell that they have so much love for everything that goes into literally every single piece of information and art assets throughout the whole game. So I really feel like, even though I've not played it as much as some people, but like, yeah, I feel like I'm part of a community that I've been playing Valheim. But it is sadly not my top pick, despite it being my most played game of the year.
it is mine, as you guessed correctly. So I'll say a few things about it as well when we come around to my number one.
Well, I guess we know Doug's number one, so we will go back to that shortly. So my number two, I'm actually linking up with Chaz here. Mine is Halo Infinite also.
Oh, nice, man.
Yeah, my number two game of this year is Halo Infinite. I thought I had my reservations. I was when they mentioned the fact that they're creating this 10-year plan for Halo, but the fact it'll be a continuing story, I'm wondering how it was going to go. Obviously, last year they postponed it by a year, so I think that definitely helped it. I think the narrative I thought was great. Like, I'm correct, Chaz. You still need to play the campaign, right?
Yeah, it's just the multiplayer. It's absolutely like sucked me in. I was playing it literally yesterday for hours.
Yeah, no, I see. I am, and you played it differently to me because I bought the battle pass, so I'm actually trying to like get the unlockables and
Yeah, I do
go
have
through
the
that.
battle pass now, actually. So I've unlocked a few things.
I definitely think they've. I'm gonna give free for free credit here. Like they took on the like the critiques and everything, like the and adjusting extremely quickly, and how they did that and improved the battle pass system for the challenges and actually unlocking stuff was really good, like really good. And they're still taking people's advice on board and trying to make improvements. I thought it was great. The campaign itself, I've really enjoyed. I love the fact it's open world. I thought I'm not disappointed, but the one I wish they had more of was variety in the actual landscape design. Like it's like they took the initial section of Halo 1 design. I can't remember the name of it. And Silent Cartographer, is that it?
Sounds right. Yeah, that's
like
the
stage
open
4.
world level in the snow, isn't it? Oh no, no,
No.
that's the one we have to board the ship. That's right.
Oh,
Yes.
Okay. So, basically, sorry, James, you were going to say?
Well, I've not played Infinite, but Silent Cartographer, I know that from the first Halo. I'm pretty sure it's the one where you start invading the beach.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, actually, this is more like, it's just grassy areas, really, There's like a Far Cry element to it, like a Ubisoft element where you have to, like, banished bases to actually go up on, which I thought was great. Actually, and there's different difficulty challenge levels. You had forward operating bases you unlock, and you have to go rescue soldiers across the map. Your companion, who's like the pilot, I thought it was a great addition to the game. The AI in the game called Weapon. I won't go into more detail than that because there's spoilers to that, but I just thought the campaign was great. It took me about 12 hours to complete. Also, you unlock multiplayer cosmetics in the campaign. So you actually just go around, which I thought was a great addition. I thought like not a lot of games do that, and to actually have to actually give you the reason to actually go around and collect everything. That was one of those games where I actually did collect everything in the game. Hunting down all the enemies as well was brilliant. I'm really looking forward to where it's going next. I'm hoping like maybe E3 or whatever big gaming events coming up. Obviously, we don't know, but what they might announce. I think if it's a continuing story, you can't wait yearly. I think it'll be better to like at least tease something. So even if it comes in like October, November time, we have that. Yes. In regards to the game, though, I definitely recommend the campaign. Really look forward to where it's going. I thought Master Chief is actually really more human in this game. Like he portrays more emotion, in my opinion, even though you can't see it. You feel like he feels like a worn soldier now. He feels like someone who's just at the end. He feels like he's at the end. He feels like this man who he's done so much and he just wants to sit down and have a beer, like he just wants to relax. And I'm looking forward to how this deviates from the TV show, because obviously the TV show is going to be a different interpretation, they've said now. So the TV show is going to be called the Silver Timeline, so it's going to basically take Halo and do its own interpretation. So we'll have like high charity and stuff. I think that was in the trailer that they showed for the new show. But
oh no, they reset the timeline and now different things can happen.
Kind
Oh
of. I mean,
no, has Halo gotten to that point where we need to be doing alternative timelines? Oh dear.
it could be more the case of like, I think maybe they might want to show Master Chief's face, Like, I think
Oh.
that might happen because I mean, technically, he has been described with his helmet off in the comics. He just hasn't come off in the games. Like, I mean, you do see his eye in one of the trailers, but that's it. And yeah, exactly. But you don't see his face. And I to be honest with you, I'm unlike Judge Dredd and all those other characters. I don't think I'd care.
Yeah,
Like,
I was gonna say, how exciting is a face really? Like, unless he's like a lizard or something.
Well,
I mean, that would
also,
be the biggest plot twist in the world.
have to say, at the end of Halo 4, if you complete it on Legendary, you get a quick glimpse of like the top half of his face. You don't really like his eyes are kind of shadowed and stuff, but you kind of see like you kind of like see his nose and his brow and his eyes and that. So they they have shown at least the archetype of face he has, but you wouldn't you wouldn't recognize him in the street.
No, and I mean the actor they've got playing him in the TV
Apart from the
show.
fact that he's about 7 foot tall, which might be a bit of a giveaway.
Well, that's the thing. Like the actor in the TV shows, he's really tall himself. His name's Pablo Schreiber. You may know him from, like, I don't know if he's in American Gods, the TV show. He plays the Irishman in that. He's also in Orange Is the New Black as the character Porn Stash in that as the guard. But he's a great actor and he's playing Master Chief. And I saw the
No
trailer.
way.
Yeah.
No way. That's weird.
The thing is though, if you look at him in the American Gods TV show as the leprechaun, he's built and he's huge.
Right. It's just because I only know him from that role in Orange Is the New Black, and that's a completely different character.
But the aesthetic of the show looks, I'm intrigued with how it goes. I'm wondering if maybe when the show comes out, that's when they'll announce more stuff for the game. Like they'll try and link it up essentially. But yeah, that's my number 2. I don't know if you have anything else to say, Chaz, on that.
Just that I wasn't expecting much because I was disappointed. They released it for free. I thought I'll give it a go, and then I was just instantly suckered in. And then they fixed the issues with, they made it better, the issues with grinding in the battle pass, more game modes, and yeah, I've just been absolutely stuck on it for the last few days. The gameplay feels Halo, but it also feels evolved. It's very satisfying to play. I've just been really enjoying it.
Sorry, I just had to nice, Chaz. If it feels evolved, fair. Well done there. I will say, like, people, if you haven't played it yet and you've got a Game Pass, just get it now. Like, just go and play it now. Like, as Chaz said, the multiplayer is free. If you've got Game Pass, the campaign is on Game Pass straight away. Just go play it now, and I highly recommend it. So yeah, that is my number 2. Right, people, we're coming on to our number 1s now. We already know someone's number 1, so we'll get to that in a moment. But yeah, James, do you want to give us your number 1 game that you played in 2021?
Yeah, well, we actually already know what my number 1 is, because we did mention it earlier. Deathloop. Which game by Arcane. So I didn't follow the trailers for this at all. I went in not knowing very much, apart from the fact that it's an Arcane game, and to me, Arcane are the one equivalent to someone like Looking Glass. They make really good immersive sims, where you can basically, most of the games you can, or most of the sims where you can play it in different ways, and you can find different paths to your objective. And Deathloop is exemplary in that. I felt that each level was very well crafted. You can find a ton of routes and a ton of different things to do. Now, Deathloop is one of these. So was a lot of these games this year actually. Well, Deathloop was a game where it's all centered around the film of Groundhog Day's principle of time resetting, and essentially it also plays like a bit of a puzzle game as well. So that each day you're trying to explore more of the island in different ways, and to put this puzzle together and find different things, different ways. And I just thought it was like a really inventive, like first-person shooter, and I thought it was really well crafted. Now, I do have a criticism of Deathloop, and I think it suffers some similar problem to Mass Effect 3.
I knew you were going to say this right away. I was going to
Yeah.
actually get to this when I was going to talk about it in a minute myself. Yeah, go ahead. I'll
I was
carry on
going
with
to
that.
say the ending is a touch disappointing, but if we forget about that, the rest of it I think is a very original first-person shooter, and with puzzle elements.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Going backwards, I'll come to what you said in a moment. The puzzle elements in the game is ridiculously good. Like trying to figure out like you have 4 segments in the game. You have morning. You basically have 4 times a day, and the game gets weirdly more interesting as the day goes by. And then you don't keep your weapons mainly unless you sort of fuse them to your body. Um, Only a certain amount can be fused and to go into the next day, so you do lose everything else. So it is roguelike to a degree, but you do actually always gain more skills, you do always gain more weapons, you do always upgrade. I loved the puzzle element of like you have to kill all these characters in a day. That is the premise of the game. Yeah, it's in the trailers, you have to kill them all in a day. But certain parts of the day you can't kill them, so you have to figure out how, like, if you go to this person in the morning, can I get this person in the morning to go to this person in the afternoon so I can kill them both there? And trying to figure that out. If you go to the evening, there's like a warehouse that's blown up. You have to go earlier in the day to figure out, well, why did that happen? Can I stop that from happening to get this person to go here? And it's how this narrative plays out. And during that game, also, you didn't mention James, but the voice acting in this game is brilliant.
Oh yes, I agree with you. Especially from the main protagonist
Cole, yeah.
and Juliana. I thought their acting together was exemplary. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's I've, at least in the last decade, the acting alone in that is brilliant. I've also, like, in some games you get like a lot of repeating dialogue. I maybe heard a couple of lines repeated in the game, but the lines extremely rarely repeat in the game. Like, it's a continuing thing, even after when you die and you go back and whatnot.
That's an impressive feat in a game where the whole scene is where technically the whole thing is repeating, and yet somehow the dialogue doesn't get repetitive. That's impressive.
Yeah, because I think the narrative actually pulls you into the fact that you are repeating the day, and she's actually taking the piss out of you, and how the day's repeating, and how and how that plays out. And just also, there's an interesting mechanic on the game. I don't know if I don't know if it's on the PC version as well, but if you enable a mode in the game, someone else who's an actual player can invade your game, and they can be disguised as Juliana and as someone else to come and hunt you down in your own game. Now, I turned that off because I would be extremely frustrated if that happened.
Yeah, I don't need that kind of stress.
Yeah, but the fact that did you actually play as Juliana and go into someone else's game and kill them?
I tried a few times and died horribly every time. But then I'm not massively great at first person shooters, and I don't really like the idea of someone. I don't like the idea of killing them once or twice, but you have 3 lives in. So if you're playing as Colt, you have 3 lives at each level. And if Juliana kills you 3 times, then you are reset back to the start of the game, the start of the day. I think that only happened to me once, and but I see. I didn't bother me too much because you kind of feel. I mean, you see, it's a challenge. It sees you as a challenge, and also it kind of adds to the terror. The NPCs are become quite easy to defeat and deal with. Visionaries can be a little bit tougher, but again, once you know what you're doing, again, they don't become too difficult. Bar 1 or 2, depending on the time of day. But so for me, the real challenge was when another player invaded as Juliana, and it was kind of like a welcome challenge. It was like, oh fuck, especially if it's in the middle of your run through. But also it can be incredibly entertaining as a result. It's this cat and mouse, which you know is which you both need to survive. So it's yeah.
I am curious to play Deathloop. Like, the more and more I hear about it, it feels like it's worth a go.
I definitely like to hear what you think, Doug, because I think the UI is one of the only, like, I think the UI could be improved a little bit, to be honest. And I think I actually mentioned this to you before, actually.
I've heard it criticized for the accessibility side, which it has made me cautious. Like, I don't want to spend money on a game and it just frustrates me because I can't get to the information. So but I'm still probably going to wishlist it, or
you can get about 12, 15 quid now, so it's actually really cheap now. I believe so. I think another part of the game that I really enjoy is the when you actually figure out you figured out the puzzle for one part, it actually plays an entire 2D animation of running through that of how to actually do it. Like it's like an old like 80s style cartoon animation, like, oh, we've got to go here, I've got to go do this, and maybe I could do this, and
Oh, cool.
like but
Like
yeah,
a little heist plan kind of thing.
Yeah.
exactly, like it's like a
Oh,
notion.
sick.
Yeah, it's brilliant, like, and
Cool.
it's stylized. It's awesome. So yeah, that's
Sounds good.
Ash James is my number one and was my number two. So Doug, let's take it over to your number one.
Yeah, so mine, as discussed earlier, is Valheim, and yeah, Jordan and I have had many adventures, this year gone by. It's been like during lockdown, Valheim was just such a nice place to be, like because among other things, like there's lots of fun things to do, the building is fun, and the combat is quite cool, like the boss fights are quite cool and are fun. I like digging caves, much to Jordan's frustration. And I don't know why, for some reason, I like caves. The game isn't built to make caves, but I like caves.
It will be soon. They're releasing an update that includes mountain
Yeah,
caves.
that's something I'm kind of still excited. I don't know how long I feel I should wait until Valheim's kind of ready to just start again, because I have started it from the beginning a few times with different people, and it's really
Same here.
it's really satisfying, because something about that is starting from the beginning, especially with the other people that if they don't know it all. It's like you're playing a whole new story of the game, because you build differently. People fight differently. People have different strategies for food. You get lucky at different times. And it's just such a nice thing to do with, it's just such a nice kind of co-op experience where you don't have to be the same kind of player to enjoy playing together. And that's what pulled me in the first place, was watching friends of mine play it on Discord and seeing some of them were off fighting a troll, and one of them was just building a tower, and the other one's just tending to crops. It's just like, this is fantastic, like this kind of asymmetrical co-op. That's fantastic. I want in. And then went in, like the meadow music is like I have heard that. I must have heard that same few tracks for hundreds, maybe nearly 100 hours or so now, and I'm just not done with it. I'm still not done listening. It is just such, as I say, like, it's a game which is wonderful to play, but it's just a nice place to be as well. And so yeah, I'm really excited to see how they keep growing it and what this experience kind of, I know, continues to evolve into, because so far it has been absolutely astonishing. More so from the fact of how small the dev team is, only like 5 or 6 people. Bonkers. But yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, it's I think that's one of the nicest things about this game is the fact that it's not done.
Yeah.
So like, and because all the information that's coming out from like the patch notes and like the developer updates, it just speaks volumes about how, you know, this game can keep going and going and going. I think there is like an end that they're thinking about planning. I remember watching a short documentary they released about the early development of the game, and they were like, Valheim will have an end, but given all the amount of content that they've kind of dreamed up and are sharing like drip fed to the fans, you know, there is potential for it to just, you know, keep expanding and expanding. And I think another nice thing that comes with this game is not just the amazing soundtrack, but also like it's such a therapeutic, cathartic experience. Like any shitty day you've had can be easily resolved by just jumping on, taking like your main character to a random world with just, you know, the fixings to make a fucking boat in your pocket, and then taking that boat to the nearest water, sailing to a random area and just building a house on like a rock or
Yeah.
something, and just, you know, and see how nice you can make it. Like that's one of the things I've sort of been doing recently, just like up by myself, just to get used to like exploring different worlds and figuring out like how not nice of an area can I fit a really nice house.
Yeah.
I built like when I was watching Don't Look Up the other day, I was literally like building a house at the same time. And I built like a 3-story house on this horrible rock that was like right next to a bunch of trolls, and I was like, how long can I get away with this before somebody shows up to ruin my life. But yeah, it's just absolutely fun game.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Again, that's my number one, and yeah, it's a game I loved it, and I'm still excited about the future of that game, which is a nice thing to be able to say. So that's me and Valheim.
Awesome. Excellent. Thank you very much, Doug. Chaz, let's go to you for your number one game played in 2021.
Sure thing. And those paying attention will know what this is already. It's Hades. So yeah, I went into Hades wanting a kind of, I guess, an action RPG type thing. I'd heard some good things about it, and it just like after a few runs through the dungeon, it just absolutely sucked me in. It's You can feel the polish in that game. It is so well made. The gameplay flow is just spectacular. The art style, I find it quite unique, and I really enjoy their take on on the mythology there. And something else that stands out to me is the voice acting. And I almost never pay too much attention to voice acting in games, but like the quality of it in Hades is so high that it stands out massively to me. Um, Often with games, I will play for a bit and put them down and then not pick them up again. Hades, I played right through to the end credits, pretty much like in a few solid days block. It was just fantastic game. I'm not surprised it's won as many awards as it has, basically.
I want to say, actually, they're a really good example of a team that did early access really well. They brought out good content stuff in the right way. They listened to the players in the right way, and by the time the full finished game was released, it was just so balanced and polished.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it really shines through the fact that they had such a long early access period, and they had so much input from fans that they actually listened to. There's so many moments while I was playing where I was just like, have they thought about this? And they had, and I'm like, that works. That's awesome. Just those little things, and especially with some games these days, they're so massive. They, there's a lot of bugs or there's lots of oversights. But Hades was absolutely watertight, as well as really, really fucking fun.
Yeah, no, I think I mentioned this to you guys before. I love the game. Thought it was amazing, and as mentioned, yeah, Logan Cunningham, the voice actor, actually did win the BAFTA Video Game Award for the performing a supporting role. So that was definitely I didn't realize he did that many voices as well for the game. But for me, I loved the game. I hated the difficulty. I'll admit, I actually put on the God mode, which allowed me to actually make it easier for me. But obviously, with that game, you have to continuously play and you get more resistance as you go through, which I thought was an excellent mechanic. That's actually something for a future podcast I wanted to talk about. Is like, is it allowed to make video games easier for people to at least play without compromising the actual game itself? And I
That'd be a
feel
spicy one.
that would be
Yeah, I've got some hot takes on that.
Ooh.
I've got some really cold takes.
Yeah, no, and I thought how they introduced like that mechanic, like you have to still play the game the same way as everyone else. Just adding that very small feature allowed me to go through. Like my housemate, he completed it 20 times. But he was like, "If you completed it, Nate," I'm like, "No, no, leave me alone, no." And I finally completed it. And he was like, "Oh, cool, I'm into my 40th go now." I'm like, "Cool, I've done it once. Leave me alone." You have to play it 10 times to get the true ending. I was like, "I'll YouTube it. I don't
Yeah.
care."
So for me, I completely understand where you're coming from with the difficulty, Nate. I think I was just on the other side of that turning point where I was getting a little frustrated, but I was like making like tiny little increments of progress, and the story had sucked me in by that point, and I'm just like, if I just keep going, kind of that addiction kicked in, and then finally I managed to get over that hill, and I didn't need to do the easy mode, but not easy mode. I don't know what they call it.
It's called God mode. I want to say. I think it's
God
called God
mode.
mode.
Yeah, but I feel like that's almost part of the intended gameplay loop that you kind of get to a point where you either you grind and you get stronger, or you become super good at the game and get through it that way. But yeah, it's probably a good example of a way to make it more accessible to other players who still want to see the story, because the story is good. It's worth going through for.
Yeah, and and what a couple of things I was going to say is it's really satisfying when you do complete it without using God mode, without using cheats.
Yeah, I'd agree.
It took me a while to. I've done it about 7 times. I've not got through anything yet. Still need to go back to it to do that. But certainly the first time, I was getting to the end boss quite a few times before, but I was always losing it at a certain point.
Yep, exactly the same here.
But then I managed to do it because I got the right combination of boons and stuff, and you feel such a satisfaction by finally doing it. So I absolutely do recommend keeping playing that. But another thing I was going to say is, as you mentioned about Deathloop, how the dialogue is really good, and there's a lot of dialogue. Even though you're going through a day so many times, it's the same with Hades. The dialogue changes according to events in the game, into how far you've got, for instance.
Yeah,
Or
I noticed that too. That really
yeah,
surprised me because I was playing for like, 30, 40 hours or something, and then I'd still be hearing not only new bits of dialogue, but new updates, new bits of dialogue that were relevant to that point in the story that was
Mm.
still developing at that point. So yeah, really impressive on that account too.
absolutely. I think it's probably the best roguelike made to date. I'm not counting
One of the best.
I'm not counting Deathloop as primarily being a roguelike. Call it for FPS, just to clarify. But yeah.
Oh, awesome! So that Hades is Chaz number one. As I said, people, in future episodes we will be having like topical discussions, and this is something I definitely want to get into in a later date, like games like Dark Souls and Bloodborne. And is there a way for people to make it more accessible for people to play without actually compromising how the game is actually done, without making it more allowing for everyone, but not annoying people in the long run. So it's definitely interesting topic, as John has stated, a spicy topic to get into there. So right, going that on that though, Jordan, I'm sensing things are going to get a bit more technical now for you. Do you want to give us your number one game of 2021?
So, I mean, it shouldn't be much of a surprise. Like the game was like nominated for like so many narrative specific awards, as well as winning Steam's outstanding story award. And obviously it's Cyberpunk 2077. I mean, I think I kind of followed the trailer aspects of it that came out throughout the years, showing off little bits and pieces now and then, and giving. I feel like our kind of generation didn't necessarily grow up with Blade Runner, but was like loving the idea of it, and it fits so well with like where we are currently with technology and games. And so when it finally came out, I was just like immediately in love with it. No matter, even if it was like half the game that they promised it would be, I was gonna love it. And it just completely floored me with its story. It's so interesting, like where they go with some of the side stories as well as the main plot. You get as much out of it as you want, to be honest, because you can just blast through the main story, but much like other CG Projekt Red games, it's like it's better to play the side stuff, but it depends on how easy you want to make the game, because you can play all the side stuff and then be like OP as hell, or you can just play the main story and then be able to blast through the content, but with greater difficulty. That said, I highly recommend like going through all the side missions, because it does reveal more important aspects of some of the main characters' stories. So I guess just to kind of give a brief idea of what the game's about, you play as V, and he is what they call a net runner. His kind of way about going things is hacking, using like developed technologies that are just like put inside you. Basically, everyone's essentially an android in the future, and one of the missions that he goes on with a friend goes ridiculously wrong, and so a consequence of that is that at some point you then wake up in a garbage dump, and you're being basically dragged back to life by a guy you don't know and some other people you don't know trying to kill you, and you're just like, what the fuck is happening? And as it transpires, it is Johnny Silverhand's hologram, or what they call an engram in the game, who's basically woken you up to raise hell, and is played by Keanu Reeves. And yeah, it's just absolutely mind-blowing story, as well as just I found it extremely satisfying to play as well. There was just like so much to do, and I got absolutely immersed. As I mentioned before, like I'm a massive fan of RPGs, so it was a very rewarding story to play out, and it sat with me for a long time, just playing it over and over again, because you have the 3 different life paths as well. I know that it was your second pick, James, but tell me what you thought about it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I really enjoyed it. I mean, it's a nice, big open world game. It's got, as you say, it's got CD Projekt Red's great narrative writing throughout. I think that's pretty much what CD Projekt Red is known for. I do have a few small criticisms I had with it. I felt some of the I felt some of the things in the game were a little bit samey. Some of the combat and stuff could get quite repetitive at times. So one of the things you have, for example, is these completely optional areas of a game where you can, like, there's a little bit of gang warfare going on, and you need to just interrupt them and then pick up an item. It felt quite repetitive, those sections, even though I did them a lot. You get money and other rewards and stuff. It was quite repetitive. But also the side missions, there's some great side missions there, with some really good narratives, but they are probably a step below for Witcher 3's side missions, which probably quite hard to top, because those side missions, those narratives, they had so much more consequence, I felt. Every single side mission in Witcher 3 had such a high level of choice and consequence to them, and I don't think all of Cyberpunk side quests did. A few did, but nowhere near as many.
Yeah, I definitely think there was some things that could have been fleshed out a lot better, especially when you're talking about like the gang warfare. I mean, there were times where like I would just be cruising along doing some other mission, and then suddenly I'm in combat, and I'm like, oh shit! It's because some guys from the fucking Tiger Claws gang are like shooting at me, and like, can you not?
Yeah.
Whilst in the middle of doing something else. I mean, obviously, it also had like a slew of interesting bugs whilst we were playing. But I guess I was extremely fortunate when I was playing Cyberpunk in that I didn't really suffer from those, and that's probably down to the fact that I was playing the PC version. But the bugs I did get were not intrusive enough to ruin my experience. I know a lot of people were like, I'm gonna wait until the game is like less buggy to play it, so I'm not ruining my immersion.
I
But
thought some of the
I guess
bugs
I'm
were
just so
fine.
used to that sort of thing now that I'm just like, it's just an issue.
Well, I grew up in the 90s where most of the games were buggy as heck. But I actually could have quite loved some of the bugs in Cyberpunk, quite amusing. I had it the other day. I had a bug where the car disappeared, so I was driving an invisible car. Also, in terms of a car, you can summon the car like you can with Geralt's horse from Witcher 3, and often that seems to break. You can see it from like smashing into other vehicles, sending them flying, and um, or dropping down from a great height. I've seen that car do so many ridiculous things when you summon it. It does warn you that it's a prototype in the tooltip text, but yeah.
Yeah, I was just thinking, in terms of like hilarious bugs, I consistently got a bug for a while that as I would be getting into my car, someone would try to phone me, and for some reason, I think this was like a widely shared bug that people had gotten, because what would then happen is you'd get in the car, and instead of driving the car would shoot itself about 3,000 feet into the sky, and then it would just fall to its death and explode. And it was like, how does it get to that? And I guess thinking about like how game development works maybe is like, maybe it was some kind of reset, but it just seemed like the weirdest possible way you could go about that. So I spent a lot of time just being like, I'm not answering the phone today, or I'm gonna wait until I've had this call before I get into this vehicle. It's like, don't talk and drive on your phone.
No, for me, I obviously, as people here know, but other people don't. I played the game pretty much till near the end. I just stopped. I don't know why I stopped. Maybe another game came out. I just think like I, I definitely need to go back to it. I think The Witcher definitely held my attention more, and I was looking forward to like, the PS5 version coming out, so to play at the time. I've got it on PC now. I did have some like frame rate issues, but I think I've rectified that now. Using the DLSS technology that's out now for an NVIDIA, I think definitely helped for some reason. But I'm definitely looking forward to going back to that and giving it another go eventually. And obviously they're working on the new stuff, new campaign content, if I'm correct, like new DLCs and everything. So
Yeah, they've kind of drip fed some of this information in the past, but a lot of what's being spoken about now is currently as leaked slash rumors. So whilst people haven't necessarily been wrong about some of the content that have come out, it's like I'm waiting for them to give me the kind of official update. But it's hinted that they're going to add in new gangs and obviously new story missions. Without spoiling anything, I definitely think that there's more you can add to some of the kind of end game content as well. I absolutely love the ending, but it is because it's such an interesting kind of way they've gone about the life paths. There's so much replayability with the game, and it does give you more options as to how your ending plays out depending on what you're doing. So I'll be interested to see like what they do with that DLC content and whether they can factor that into the end game as well.
oh, awesome. Well, thank you, Jordan, and thank you, James, for popping in a bit of information there as well, because obviously, interlinking numbers there. So that was Jordan's number one game of played 2021. Right, on to my game now, and the final game of 2021 for us all. It is Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. Now, obviously, everyone I know knows I love Marvel games. I just love Marvel in general. But I was actually quite like I was disappointed with the Avengers game that came out. I enjoyed the campaign. I'm a big fan of Miss Marvel. But I felt like the multiplayer was lacking, and I'm a bit disappointed with that. So when I heard that the Guardians of the Galaxy game was coming out, I was like, "Oh no, it's just an offshoot of that." And I realized no, it was literally a single player only game, and I was shocked. Like I was honestly shocked when I played the game. I thought it was brilliant. The narrative was amazing. I don't really want to spoil it because the game does actually get quite deep into like Guardians lore, but it doesn't treat the player like you have to the info dump you. It's sprinkled in there to the point where you figure out what this is, but then by the time you finish the game, you're like, oh wow, I actually know quite a bit about this entire team now without actually knowing anything before. Like you can go join between missions. You're on the Milano, the ship they have, and you can talk to the crew and everything and how that goes, and you can learn more about the crew and interact with them. There's a llama at some point, which is quite funny. And it's about like the Guardians dealing with this like menacing threat that's appearing in the galaxy, and they have to save everything. The narrative itself does jump back and forth between the 80s. Like you do actually go back and you realize about Peter's previous life and how it intersects with everything and where he is now. And a lot of people felt like, oh, is this just going to be like off-brand Guardians of the Galaxy, the movie essentially? And it's not. It's literally its own thing. All the characters have a different personality. They've taken other characters in the original comic book direction, like Gamora and Drax. They are more like their original comic book selves. And I think that's really awesome. Rocket is pretty much just Rocket Raccoon because I don't think you could really change a raccoon who fires guns and rocket launchers and his badass attitude differently. And Groot, well, he only has 3 words, so you can't really change that. But Peter, he's more put together than the film version. Like he actually knows kind of what he's doing to a degree, and that's interesting because that's how it plays into the game, in which you actually only control Star-Lord. You actually only control him in the game, and you actually control your other teammates through directional button actions. So you actually like order them to do attacks, and then after a certain point in the game, there's this entire 80s soundtrack where you'll bring your team together and give a motivational speech. And then the thing is, though, is that you get two choices at the end of basically you have to listen to what your team is saying, and you get two choices. And if you choose the correct option after listening to what your team is saying, you'll get a big boost of experience and also like damage to the opponent. And then you get fucking Rick Astley, never gonna give you up, start playing, or waking me up before you go as you do these big fights. I thought it was brilliant, and I thought the ending was really satisfying. There's actually two endings, just to not put too much spoilers in there, but just keep around and everything. And I just thought it was a really, really satisfying game. And it's coming from the team that did Deus Ex Human Revolution, Mankind Divided, which I thought was like to hear that company did that, and I know they've got possibly more in the works. And I'm kind of hoping maybe down the line they'll intersect with Insomniac and they might create this bigger universe, which would be quite interesting. But yeah, I thought the game was brilliant, and that is my number one game of 2021. I highly recommend it. Highly recommend it indeed. So yeah, that is it, people. That is all our 2021 game titles. I hope everyone's had a good time, talking about our games, and hope you guys have enjoyed talking about it yourselves as well. But yeah, no, I hope everyone's having a good time, and if you'd like to stick around for a spoiler discussion on the Matrix Resurrections, please stay after the break. If you want to plug out into the real world and go see the movie, pop back when you've seen it, because obviously we'll be doing spoilers, so you don't want to be in that. I don't know which of you guys will be joining us for the discussion afterwards. I believe Doug and James will be leaving us because they haven't seen the movie, and they actually want to see it first before it gets spoilers. And it's quite a long film, as we'll get into that. I'm not going to give any spoilers there. So yes, but yes. Anyway, people, for all you people who have joined, I hope you've had a great time today joining us for the top 5 games, and go watch The Matrix. Definitely an experience, and we would definitely like to hear what you think. But if you'd like to get in contact with us, if you have any questions or queries, feel free to email us at nmipodcast at outlook.com, or follow us on Twitter and Instagram at nmicast. Please join us next week as we delve into our top 5 TV shows of 2021, as well as a spoiler discussion of Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City. That is going to be interesting because I've heard things about that movie, and yeah, we'll definitely be back for that. So yeah, if you'd like to stick around for The Matrix, please do. But until then, I've been your host, Nate, and thank you to all my guests today, and I hope you will stay safe, and see you next week. Thank you. Bye-bye. And welcome back, everyone, to Need More Info. Obviously, hope you enjoyed our top 5 video games played in 2021. I am joined again by Jordan and Chaz as we delve into The Matrix Resurrections. Just to re-emphasize, this is going to be a spoiler-filled discussion. So if you haven't seen the movie, or if you just don't care, decide on what you want to do there. Go see the movie, come back, or just listen along. Or if you've seen the movie, see if you agree with us, see if you disagree with us. You can get in contact with us and we'll give you those contact details at the end. So, right, this film. Let's just go into a very, very brief intro on it first. So, The Matrix Resurrections was released late last year on December 22nd. It was directed by Lana Wachowski, and it was starring Keanu Reeves, Carrie-Anne Moss, Yaha Abdul-Mateen II, Jessica Henwick, Jennifer Garth, Neil Patrick Harrison, Priyanka Chopra Jonas, and Jada Pinkett Smith, and a whole slew of other actors. And it was released by Warner Brothers, and it was on HBO Max and in cinemas internationally. This film is
Absolutely brilliant.
Really
It-
strong words.
it's an experience.
Yeah, that's a pretty good classification of it. I'd say.
It's long.
It is
It-
definitely quite a long film.
Do you know
but
what? It didn't feel that long to me. It didn't feel like, what was it, 2.5 hours?
Yeah.
It's like 20 minutes. I think it's about 20 minutes longer than Resurrections, or like the longest actually Reloaded.
I think it's actually the longest film out
It
of
is.
all of them.
Yeah, and I like the film, but I also don't like parts of it. I feel there was a film there ironically, within the Matrix, that is a brilliant story, but there are elements to the movie which took me out of it, or it pulled it away from what I felt like the Matrix was. Like, a lot of people put a lot of shit on the Matrix Reloaded and Matrix Revolutions,
Mostly Revolutions. I think everyone universally loves Reloaded, but
Really?
yeah, like
Uh,
compared to Revolutions, it's
Uh,
like
I
absolute
know.
gold.
I've heard that they sort of tolerate it, but I don't. I've always heard that people like the first one and the second two are just kind of eh.
So to be honest with you, Jordan, so a lot of people love the highway scene in two.
Oh yeah.
Everyone adores the highway scene in two. A lot of people like the Burly Brawl, which is obviously Neo versus all the Smiths, but obviously the CGI was, wonky.
Well, I was weirdly having a similar conversation with someone else the other day about it. And basically, what really it boils down to is when you think of the first film, there's so many specific scenes that you can think of that are like, yeah, that's like really stuck in my brain as something that happened. And in the second film, it has the same sort of stuff. But when you think about the third film, it's like, oh, it's just like a absolute long mess that
I think
ends.
I think the only things I really remember about the third film, bearing in mind I've only seen it once, was the end battle and what happens to Neo, and
Yeah, the
then
fucking Dragon Ball Z battle in the fucking
yeah,
city.
and then the Smith coming out of the Matrix and not understanding how the hell he did that. That's about what I remember from that
That was
film.
in the second one. Or are you talking about the scene where he wakes up after the coma?
No, where he's like a human.
Yeah, but
Agent
he's a
Smith.
human in the second one.
Oh, okay. Well, that's how memorable the third one is then.
Yeah, no,
it
he
both.
wakes up in a coma, or from
Right.
a coma, I should say.
Yeah, because he is a human in both parts. Because the second one literally ends with them on the table and the camera panning over to Human Smith. And by the way, going back to that movie, big props to the actor for doing a perfect Hugo Weaving voice impression. The only other person
He
who
was so
could pull
good.
that off is Aaron. I believe his name's Aaron from The Walking Dead. He voiced Hugo Weaving in Avengers Endgame,
All right.
so he was the Red Skull in Avengers Endgame.
Hmm.
So yeah. Oh, by the way, spoilers for that. The movie's been out for a few years now. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, no, yeah. He's actually a known voice actor, and he actually came out to do the Hugo Weaving voice for that because Hugo Weaving didn't come back. But yeah,
Nice.
this film, obviously going off the other two, I loved them. I thought, I loved the Burly Brawl. I loved the Enter the Matrix and the Path of Neo video games that went along with it. I thought they were amazing. The fact that they were actually, almost I believe they were written by the Wachowskis as well, like because there were actual in-game movie shot scene
They
for
would have
scene.
had some involvement, right?
I mean, because I mean, like Enter the Matrix. It was like, oh yeah, no, it was directed by the Wachowskis, so it was
All right.
actually directed by them, and like,
Impressive.
I didn't
yeah,
know that. That's cool.
yeah, because obviously it was the movie. It coincides with literally the movie itself with Niobe and I can't remember his other name as well. Ghost. So that plays out, and I think Path of Neo was them as well, and they changed the ending to that, which was hilarious because there was a big kaiju Smith at the end of that video game, which
I
I
think
thought.
you mentioned to me the other day that about the online game as well being like 100% canon.
So I thought that was the case because in the video game, The Matrix Online, Morpheus dies in the Matrix, but in the film, it's not alluded to how he actually dies. It is never specified. So
They I think they just kind of gently say of old age, because
yeah,
like it's like we're now into spoilers. Basically, he rocks up and becomes like, I don't know, the new leader of Zion, um and everything's great for a while, but then he just kind of dies, and it's not even like he shows up on camera as like a past scene. He is gone, and Niobe is there, but she's an old ass bitch.
I mean because it's set 60 years after, and we'll go into her in a little bit, but then I've got some. I believe we've got some comments on that, to be honest. But yeah, just going by the previous films, I actually really enjoyed the third Matrix film. Obviously, I do love the Dragon Ball Z parts. I love me some anime, and I thought the one thing I will go into in this movie as well, the music was nowhere near as good as the previous films. Like it wasn't. It was nowhere near the same level, in my opinion.
Thinking about when I saw the movie, I'm trying to think of memorable music bits from it, and nothing's really coming to mind. So yeah, maybe you're right about that.
I can't believe both of you. There is a
Oh,
very prolific montage
oh,
right near the start where where
yeah.
where Neo is
Oh,
like
hang on. No, I'm
well
talking
utterly
rubbish.
convinced about like that he's like
The
going
trailer
crazy.
music, right? Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah.
Sorry,
They
yeah,
bring
that
in
bit's good.
they bring in that song, and yeah, because I was gonna say like going back to kind of your earlier point, Nate, about like things that you liked about it and things that you didn't, and I think really for me, it's like the film is in two parts: the good part and the less good part.
Mm.
The first half
I
is
was
like
gonna say, let me
100%
guess.
amazing.
The
I
first
loved every
half.
second,
Yeah.
except for the cringy game developers. Like I
There's been
wanted
a lot
to
of talk about
shoot
them.
all of them. They were awful.
I think that was on purpose. I think.
Yeah. Well, so it's sort of like I think it goes back to the first Matrix film where Mouse, the guy who created the lady in the red dress, he goes, "Well, what chicken? Why does everyone taste like chicken? Did they think it tastes like chicken? So maybe it's the Matrix thinking, oh, because they're trying to keep Neo within this world, so they've created like these over the top game developers who like they're sort of like an overstimulated version of what is in real life. So
It just it just makes me wonder, like, what does Lana Wachowski like look at our generation? Because that's kind of what they're commenting on. Is like, let's say Keanu Reeves is Lana's generation, and everybody else around him is like millennials, and I was just like, what is she seeing us?
I feel like it's more a reflection of like corporate game personalities, I suppose,
Maybe.
rather than yeah. And also, I just remembered talking about the music. The end credit scene. I just remembered. The end credits music. That stuck with me because it was like I don't know. It was some kind of Rage Against the Machine type. I don't know if it was a
It
cover.
was literally this Rage Against the Machine song, but sung by somebody else.
It was a cover. Okay, cool. Yeah.
I think it's just for me like we'll get into this in a minute about the whole fighting, but I think the fighting and the music go hand in hand. Like there's these big orchestral pieces of like the and just how it plays off of it, and I just don't think that impact was there.
Mm.
You know, I said we'll get into that, but obviously going by the start of the film, a lot of people actually criticize Keanu Reeves' performance in this movie, and I'm going because I think people expected him to be John Wick because he pretty much he has his long hair still, he has the beard, he's like this is John Wick in the Matrix.
I feel
And
like the trouble people are having here is that they think that Keanu Reeves is an amazing actor. And I'm not saying that he's a bad actor. I'm just saying that that's just how he does things. Like he's very kind of like everything's, like this and that, and it's like, and
It did.
that's just how he talks. And like, and people are expecting him to be like, this ridiculous Brad Pitt-esque actor because he's been in so many things, right?
It didn't take me out of it at all. I do think it worked in like the setting that they put him in. Really. Yeah. He
Yeah,
just
he
sort of
looked
seems
like a nervous wreck.
confused and lost, and yeah, it worked.
yeah, and a broken mind. And I really thought the scene when he first meets Trinity, or what was her name? What was her name?
Oh, Triss, right?
Tiffany.
Tiffany, that's it.
Tiffany.
Yeah, Tiffany.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought that scene was really good, like his timidness and everything. And also, fun fact: her husband, Chad Stahelski, was Keanu Reeves' stunt double and
Yeah.
stunt coordinator for the previous films, and he directed the first John Wick movie.
Oh,
So it's kind of I thought it was pretty fun. When I saw him, I was like, I know who you are.
bit of a varied career, stuntman and director.
Yeah, but I think like with I think people were just like really expecting John Wick, and a lot of people joking saying, "Well, what if John Wick is in the Matrix? Like, what if like this entire meta thing? Because that's how he can do all these things." But yeah,
That would
I
have
don't
been
know.
hilarious.
I
Probably
mean,
wouldn't have worked like, plot hole wise. This film was already a bit wonky on the story, but man, wouldn't it have been like such a ballsy thing for them to do that?
Yeah, it's like an extremely meta film, obviously, as well. Like they constantly like dropped a lot of kind of jokes, and I found myself like laughing a lot at the start of
Yeah,
the film just with everything that they were saying, because it was almost to the point it was like really in your face.
I was laughing way more than I thought. Like, I never really thought of Matrix films as particularly funny, but this one was, well, yeah, pretty meta and quite hilarious at points because of that.
let's get into the story a little bit. I mean, with this movie, it's playing on the whole reboot like revamp aesthetic, and but using I actually thought it was a very intriguing, like I think where Jordan made a point of like the first half is great, and the second half is so great. And I think because the first half deals with this whole aspect of like what is going on, what is he losing his mind? Is it all real? And then it does reintroduce him to the real world. I like the aspect of like reintroducing how they brought it back in, how they changed things out a little bit and updated things. And I really wish we would have explored IO more, like the new
Yeah, that would have been cool.
yeah.
I did like the little bit that they did with that. I know a lot of people didn't like that robots were. No, they're not even called robots, are they? The mechanical creatures were helping them now, but I thought that made some sense. It
Yeah.
was cool to see, especially the way they brought the programs into real life with like the nanobots. That was awesome.
I was just gonna say that really what I thought was quite great about it was just the fact that it's very obviously pointing out the fact that it hates reboots. And
Yeah.
like
Yes.
I've said this to Nate like a million times, but like one of the things I really hate about the current film industry is that a lot of things that are kind of popular these days are remakes of old films
Hmm.
or like reboots of franchises that either no one cares about or that people really care about, and they're like,
They're gonna
you
ruin
know
it.
yeah, and then you have like a franchise that never ends, and that just seems to be like the only things that come out. And this film was legitimately just like, yeah, fucking hate reboots, and we're just gonna throw it in your face a lot that we're
Yeah.
rebooting the franchise, we're rebooting this game, guys, we're gonna bring it back to life. And that, I felt like that was very clever.
Especially the bit where they're in the office and like they literally name drop Warner Brothers and they're like, "We're gonna do it with or without them." I was like, "Wow, that's brave." But
You literally start. I was literally just about to say that. So
sorry,
yeah.
man.
I mean, no, it's fine. I mean, well, it's good that we all notice it. I mean, I also think it's brilliant that Warner Brothers are like, yeah, do it, because obviously, I believe Warner Brothers have got it. The guys see the script as well. The guy know what it's like, so
Oh
they're like,
yeah,
they would
yeah.
have seen that, and
Obviously they approved it. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. I mean,
But that was like a real thing, right? Like they were planning to maybe do a Matrix film, and like they were like, we're gonna do this film, and then they kind of strong armed someone
Yeah.
into being a part of it.
I mean,
and sorry, Chaz, you continue.
I was just gonna say the fact that they only got one of the directors back as well, kind of, it says something about that. It's just like, let's see who we can actually agree to do this, but it doesn't really matter. We're gonna do it anyway.
There is a story behind that as well, but I feel like Nate knows what I'm about to say.
Yeah, I mean, go for it.
I was just going to explain, like, so a lot of what's tied into. I was kind of going to go into this a bit later, but basically, a lot of this film is like Lana Wachowski, who directed it, made this film partly because of the fact that her parents both died quite suddenly in recent years, and
I did
then
hear this.
around
Yeah.
that time that they were trying to get over that loss, they then came up with the concept of this film and bringing the two characters, Trinity and Neo, together again, and that brought them a lot of peace. Whereas Lily, the other sister, their kind of feeling around the Matrix brought up a lot of like negative feelings and like of like their past gender identity, as well as just like they didn't feel like they wanted to be back in that place making this film because well, they don't have like any angst against making Matrix films per se. It's more just they didn't feel the same way about making the film
Hmm.
as Lana did, and so it seemed like an interesting way to go about it. So that it wasn't like Lily was like, I will not be a part of this. It was more, you do your thing. I'm gonna deal with the parents' loss a different way.
It makes me glad, to be honest, that is it Lana? Lana Wachowski. She wanted to come back for, she had a reason to do it rather than just they're gonna pay me some money. So
Well,
yeah,
there was well, obviously, as John said, there's two reasons that it's basically they were going to
exactly.
do
Yeah.
it anyway. It was either
Yeah.
we're going to do it, or could come back. And I just think it's also like I think that's a I think the Wachowski sisters complemented each other in that regard. Like, I think if both of them were on this, which obviously, I'm not going to go against them on that because, each their own decisions and everything, it's all good. But I think maybe they would have like maybe Lana's very good at the story, whereas what's the other sister's name? Sorry,
Lily.
Lily Wachowski. I was going to say Lisa, but it's Lily Wachowski. She
At least I'm pretty sure it's Lily. I could be wrong. I should probably Google this just in case.
let's double check that quickly. Yeah, it's Lily Wachowski. Yeah, it's Lily.
Haha, I win.
Yeah, haha. So
I don't know what, but I win.
so I think she may have been better on the like the camera work and the maybe the stunt side, like that shooting and everything. So maybe that would have balanced them out. And that is one of the critiques I will have about the movie, because I loved the story, and I feel that if they gave it 2 films, I think it would have been much better, or even a mini series. Like do a Matrix live action mini series with this, like 6
I
episodes of
don't
any
know.
series.
I'm not sure if I agree with you there.
I think it would have worked better, because I think there was so much story to go into that it didn't have enough film, or it was because I mean you got to agree the pacing is very quick in this film.
Yeah, it does feel like they weren't in the Matrix for that long, really, but it must have been a fair amount because it is 2.5 hours long.
Yeah, I was gonna say like the problem with this film is not that it should be a mini series. It's just that it tries to do too much in a short amount of time, and they didn't have to. Like there was like so many elements of the film happening, that it feels like you're just getting bombarded with information, and it's just like you don't have to add some of these things. Like there could have been a lot of. It feels like no one looked at this story and gave edits before they made it into a film. It feels like there was things that they could have just skipped over. Like I didn't need everything about the kind of ins and outs of like the what was it? It's not the architect, but it's the other guy,
No,
the
so it's the analyst.
the analyst. Like there was stuff about that could have been dropped out towards the end where they're like, oh, you've got to choose what you want to do, and it's like in a coffee shop, and it just felt really like what is happening. But then like some of the more things I was interested in was like learning about the robot wars and the conflict outside of the Matrix, because I wanted to know like how did we get from A to B. But it seemed to be like we've gone from A to Z, and we'll tell you about like half of the alphabet, and then the other half is just like, fuck you, you don't get to know.
They were talking about like a robot civil war, and I was like, that sounds really interesting. But I think that was maybe like 3 sentences
Yeah,
of
they
dialogue
glossed
we
over
got
it
on
real
that.
quick.
It's just like, oh, okay.
What might have been good actually is a case of like there's actually this would have been a really good point. So there's a scene in the film where Bugs, played by Jessica Henwick, who by the way I actually thought she was great in the film.
Yeah, she was.
Sorry, yeah. Like there's a scene in the film where she sees Neo, or like what she finds out is Neo about to leap off a building. If they did a film before this was about the entire machine versus war, and then it was from her perspective coming out and everything, and she sees this man falling off. She's like, "Oh, I realize this is not the real world. This is not the real world." But you don't find out that's Neo until the end of the film, and then do this film. So it's sort of like it reveals Neo at the end, and then this entire film was just about Neo and Trinity. So it's all like goes into that, and it supplants all these things in the film where it goes, oh no, we're gonna go this direction. I think that would have been better, because the Animatrix, like that was brilliant, and that
Yeah.
dealt with like the machine and human war in 2 episodes.
It sounds like a cool concept, but I'm not sure about how many people would have seen a Matrix movie after 20 years without Neo in it. Basically, I mean, it's a cool idea, but yeah, that's the thing that springs to mind with that thought.
No, I get you, and I totally get you there. I think, but I do definitely agree. The machine war would have been a really cool aspect, and like the energy wars, essentially, which is an interesting way to put it, because that was the whole principle behind the machine wars, because of energy, which was I thought was so
Yeah.
great.
Even you saying like it could have been 2 movies, what immediately sprung to mind was all of that stuff at the start with them being in the Matrix, him being in the games company, all of that like cool subversion stuff they were doing. That could have probably been its own movie, I reckon. Like that's what immediately sprung to mind.
Yeah, I think in regards to other characters, like Yahab Dormatin II as Morpheus, like an AI version of Morpheus, or Morpheus Smith hybrid that he's created by Neo originally.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
odd.
I saw a lot of criticisms about that. Like, I understood why they kind of went about it that way, and I thought it was like an interesting idea. I just don't think they needed to tie it to Morpheus.
No.
Like,
Honestly,
it just seemed like I feel like a lot of people criticize. They were like, oh, they've just got another prominent actor who, you know, is bald, like, to play Morpheus, and then it was just like, if it doesn't have to be new Morpheus, it just
Well,
had to be an agent who switched sides.
I do have to point out that he hasn't actually bald in real life. They actually purposely shaved his head to make him more Morpheus-like. And
Oh, really? Fair enough.
yeah, because he's actually a brilliant actor. Because he's in the recent Watchmen limited series TV show, and he was brilliant in that. And he's one of the people that people say might, and he's also in the new Candyman movie as the main character. And people also think he might be want to be the new Black Panther. But anyway, yeah. So I thought he was. I actually liked him in the movie. I think like the whole like issue with like people going on about that did go against it. Like,
Yeah, it was an unfair criticism. I really liked him as well.
I thought it was good. Yeah.
yeah, you mentioned Chaz about the whole machines in the real world and like taking on the the image and everything, like the ball bearing essentially the morphing of them and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah, but and also because also I noticed in the film I was listening to another podcast and they were talking about how the machines are very insect-like. Like they go completely away from humanity because in the Animatrix, they take on almost human appearance to like you know coincide with humanity and humanity like fuck you to the machines like okay die, and they go very insect-like. But in this film, if you notice, the machines which are like with the humanity now, they become more bipedal. They have more like they have like two eyes. Like they try to take on more of a human, more human mammal aesthetic essentially. So they still have the
See,
machine effect.
that was another thing that kind of threw me off as well, because the only one that was like, see, when I was watching it, right, I thought they were meant to be like fish, because the one that's like silent that just kind of roams around looked a lot like some of these kind of weird, like, I don't know, loofah bug like fish that you get in the ocean. And then you had that other one that's like the rescue angel, but
Oh, the
it
the
looked like a
bird.
stingray. And I was like, oh,
Oh,
it's a stingray. And then it was like, no, it's a bird. And I was like, oh, I didn't see that at all.
yeah.
Like, and then they also had that little tiny one, which literally served no purpose in my mind. That was just like a weird robot that was just there.
I was getting like Transformers vibes off of that. You know, like the little annoying
Oh
robot
god,
that then
yeah,
you know that one? Yeah, I was just like, don't
yeah.
tell me they're copying that. Come on.
Yeah, like yeah, no. But yeah, I really enjoyed him in the film. I liked the fact that he was able to interact, how they brought him into the real world and the Matrix world, and how how he tried to unlock Neo and everything. I thought it was really good. Going off the Neo Smith thing, sorry, Morpheus Smith thing, Jonathan Groff as Smith, or as the new version of Smith, aka they didn't get Hugo Weaving back, so we got this actor. And I really like the actor because he's in Mindhunter. He plays King George in Hamilton, and he plays the main male voice actor in Frozen. So he's got quite a dynamic range. And then I thought he was really good.
Yeah,
I like
same.
yeah I if they did do another one, I don't think we're going to get another one of these because supposedly Warner Brothers. I read an article are set to lose $100 million with this film.
Really?
Well,
Yeah,
they've made most of the money back in terms of the budget, but that's not necessarily the way that they get a movie to be greenlit again. It it unfortunately was just like bad timing, and also re-releasing on HBO Max at the same time, that it's just like absolutely piss poor. Like, it basically did like a quarter of what they thought it was gonna do.
Oh, damn. That's a bit of a shame because I don't know if I would want a sequel, but I did enjoy this one. So
I
I
think
don't know. I would have
like
liked for it to done well.
yeah, because with him, obviously, he's Neo's business partner in the world, like looking over him and how he's evolved as well. He's evolved into like he's literally a virus who can transfer between bodies now. Obviously, he could take over bodies before, but sort of like they've changed how he like morphs and everything, which I thought was really cool. And I like how he's taken on like a like I will help you to get my own way sort of thing. So he's like trying to work with Neo now to a point.
Yeah, that was a bit odd, but it's an interesting take. I do like how he kind of rebelled against the analyst in the end. I wasn't expecting that. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, I
interesting.
was gonna add there. that what I actually quite liked about the fact that it wasn't Hugo Weaving is because it wasn't immediately obvious that he was like a Smith agent.
Yeah.
Because at the start he's just like the business partner, the edgy business partner.
Yeah, you're right.
And I quite liked how literally mid like everything's going to shit in the office and the SWAT teams come in. That it's almost like he kind of like jerks and he's like, oh shit, I'm an agent, I forgot. And then he just fucking gets his gun out. And I was like, that's awesome. Like that whole sequence is just like, what the fuck is happening?
Well, he does his most iconic line to wake up. Like, Mister. Yeah, he kind of like that's how
Screams at him.
Yeah, which I thought was great, and also that gun looked real. Like when it's fun, like that sequence was really good with like water. And another issue I had for actually that goes into another point I was going to have was the sets. I was half and half with the like the locations. Like half of them seemed really good, like the real world and everything. But when it came to the in-world sets, like actually the end sequence in the cafe, it felt very theater stagey. It felt very like now that could have been possibly because of COVID. I don't know if they filmed this before COVID or during COVID. That could have
It
been
was
one of the reasons
during
why.
COVID, but
Yeah,
I know what
so
you mean. It felt, I kind of wish they chose a different cafe. Like it was very like rectangle shaped, so you could tell it's like don't want to break that line
yeah,
of like
exactly.
the invisible cinema line.
Yeah, but yeah, just going back to him for a second. I'm really looking forward to what he does next because I think as I said, he's very diverse in what he can do, and I would have loved to see more of him if this film did eventually get something else. Because maybe it could continue in animated form. I would be that's an avenue it could go, and he's obviously got animation experience, and I definitely enjoy having him back. But yeah, going back to the sets, like the actual sets though, like the sequence with the Merovingian coming back.
Yeah,
That was wild.
that was weird.
I
But
didn't know what he was saying.
I didn't know what he was saying. I didn't understand what was going on. What was they said it was old programs or something? I was sorry. I'm a Matrix newbie. I got a bit lost.
It goes into the previous films where basically in the original Matrix films, in the second and third one, you get exiles, which are like old programs which don't return to the source. And this is where you have this is where ghosts and vampires and werewolves come from because they were old programs from previous Matrix iterations. Because obviously this was the 7th version, the last movie, so this is the 8th.
Yeah.
Or whatever version it is.
no, it was the 6th version, so this is 7th.
Oh no!
God.
Okay, fair enough. Well, we don't know how many times they reset the Matrix since then.
True.
But in regards to that though, like, yeah, they were essentially exiles. Because obviously, Sati, Sati, played by Priyanka Chopra Jonas. She's the little Indian girl who grew up and now she's sort of like the Oracle to a degree, I believe. And she's assisting them, and she has that stingray.
She's not the Oracle, but like it's weird. She's like a world designer. That's sort of her thing. And that's kind of what they allude to at the end of the third one is that she like paints the sky with colors. She like makes edits of the Matrix to do really nice things. And then in this one she's like, my father told me how to edit the Matrix so we could do this thing.
Well, I think I knew exactly who. So in the trailers, no one knew who her character was. But a lot of people didn't. I kind of knew straight away because at the end of the Matrix Revolutions, when she creates that sky for Neo, in this movie they changed the complete visual aesthetic of the film, and it matches that aesthetic at the end of that movie. And I was like, well, this is what it looks like. So it was weird because obviously this movie, like the previous movies, had this green tint on them. And this movie was so sharp and so colorful, which was very weird to look at some point.
That was something I noticed too. Yeah, perhaps like slightly subconsciously, but yeah, it's almost like a happier film than the others. It's very odd to see the Matrix like that.
I think that's purposeful though. Like I think how Lana did this movie was to be a contrast to the like maybe the versions before it were black and white. Maybe each version of the Matrix has a different visual style when you go into it.
I think that feeds into one of the things that made it stand out from, as Jordan was saying, some of these like rehashes and re-releases that are happening where they don't just try and make it exactly like the old ones. They try and do something different, which I think it works. It's pretty cool.
I was just thinking. I have like a theory now. Because like when you're thinking about this film and it's like vivid colors, I'm wondering if it's like weirdly paying homage to like Looney Tunes. Because obviously they had Bugs Bunny as a character, and I guess that also harkens to the fact that there's like the tattoo of the white rabbit on in the first film. But I'm wondering if it's like meant to be like, because it's like Looney Tunes and it's like really vivid, colorful, that plays into the part of like Neo like losing his shit a bit, like that it's like a circus and it's like really like overbearing, like everything's really happy and nice, aren't you happy, Neo? And he's just like fucking losing his mind.
No, but yeah, going back to the sets and like the visual aesthetic there, the film, as we said before, I thought some of the location choice was really good, like the dojo revisit and like how it was on a big lake and like some like the actual bike through the town. I thought was really good with the horde mode, or the swarm mode that activated. I thought it was pretty
I
cool.
love that bit. That was so cool. Just like
Yeah,
fucking dive bombing people out of windows.
Oh my god, that was so absurd, but it was good.
but yeah, going like it just feels like as we mentioned before, the movie was very rushed in its shots because we had a discussion about this before, John, about how the average shot of the film, the average shot length in this film is 2.7 seconds long,
Yeah,
and
it's
it's
very quick cuts
yeah.
throughout
And
all
I
of the
think
action.
this is where my main concern comes in. The Matrix for me is known as machines, um, really cool audio, really interesting story, and the fighting. The fighting was a big, like the martial arts was a big part of it, and obviously they didn't bring the obviously the visual stunt coordinators didn't come back, but the music and the fighting complement each other, and I feel one, the music wasn't done by Don Davis this time because I believe they fell out with the Wachowskis, and him fell out or they fell out, and I think like that's what I love about the final Matrix. The Matrix Revolutions is like the final fight between Neo and Smith. The music in that was brilliant, in my opinion. And you could say other things about it, but that's what I thought it was. And in this film, the fighting was too close shot. It was shot too close.
Yeah,
It
messy.
didn't
See
give
what was
time.
happening.
No, like I was at someone did an article about this, actually, a stunt or a video about how in the original Matrix movie, every shot that happens, every punch that connects, when they change the shot, so in the dojo scene, when they change the shot, when a punch happens, the next shot is that punch connecting. So you see every action in that. So you flow with the movement of the fights.
Yeah, like you
And
felt the impact as the choreography was going.
exactly. And like the underground fight between Neo and Smith, like in the first film, with that funny sound where he like chokes him like with his fingers and everything. It's really weird to say.
I guess there's only really some fights in this film where it's like really good, and it's like you have the fight with Smith and Neo in like the basement of that weird warehouse they were in. Which, by the way, when I was looking at that scene, I remember thinking about did you both have like a Go Bananas in your hometown? Like an indoor jungle gym? That's what it looked like. And it just looked like such a mess. But I remember like the fight in the basement, while it wasn't quite as good as like the train station fight from the first Matrix, it was still like that had more impact on me than everybody else's fights. Like, because they were just so messy and all over the shop.
See, that the problem was that it was the fight just before, like up above, where it was like so many people fighting. It was so quick, and so the shots were so close. And like, I know Jessica Henwick. She's actually a brilliant martial artist. Like I've seen her in the show Iron Fist. Show's not great, but you know she was great in it. And funny enough, she had to actually choose between the Matrix, go back to Marvel, which was quite funny. And she chose this. And I think it's a
I mean,
case.
I would.
Yeah, no, of course, yeah, of course. But I think like because I've seen the behind the scenes footage of them training, and I did have worries like is Keanu Reeves going to be able to get to the level of the fighting he did in the original films? Because obviously this is 20 years later almost.
Well, they kind
And
of make reference to that in the film, don't they? He's like, "I'm not who I used to be."
That's the thing. I feel like the fighting reflected how he has kind of gotten worse, basically, because he's older and out of practice.
but I think that's where like it comes into like the younger generation fighting. It should have pulled the camera back, given extra time for the shots. Maybe because they wanted to get so much story in, that's why they cut the shots down in the film. But that's one of my main critiques of the film. Like I actually really love the other love the story and everything and like the idea concept, but the fighting was the weakest part for me. The fighting and the music was the weakest
Yeah,
part for me.
A bit that stood out for me in terms of action, I guess it's kind of fighting, but not really, was where Trinity and Neo are running away on the motorbike, and Neo is just doing his kind of force field blast thing over and over and over and over, and I'm like, it made it so obvious that like he wasn't really fighting and he couldn't fly, and I'm just like, oh.
Yeah, that for me was kind of weak, and it was kind of like a get out of jail free card for every fight that they were involved with. Like, I liked the idea of the sequence, but it felt like it went on for so long, just like driving around and around and around, just like force field.
That's because the same
They don't
thing
have
kept
to.
happening.
Yeah, it just felt a bit weird.
They got jumped by a bunch of people. He would, use his force field, and then it would happen again and again and again, like 8 times or something.
So I do have to come into this though, because this actually we're wrapping up soon, but we haven't got to this point yet. How do you feel about Trinity being they say the one, but I call it the two now because like
I want to think of it in like a computer programming sense. Like, it is patch 1.1 of like the one. It is the next one.
I didn't really think of her. I mean, maybe they were trying to get that across, but I more saw of it as she was just becoming more skilled with her abilities inside the Matrix, not necessarily
Yeah.
she was taking over Neo's role or anything.
I like to think they're both the one. Like, they're both like together. They are the one.
Well, that was the
as
point,
opposed
right?
to like one and one.
The film was trying to make that point because they were strongest when they were closer together, right?
Yeah, because obviously in the first Matrix film, Neo only finally becomes so the article goes on about how like you have to decide who you are, you have to choose who you are, and Trinity is told that like you will find him, you will love him and everything, and Mia only comes back to life when she accepts who he is. So she's sort of like the key to unlocking him who he is, and in this film it's the reverse. So it's her unlocking her memory, her realization of who she is. So it's unlocking her. So maybe it's a case of like I tried to think that. Maybe because obviously the architect with his huge spiel he did, there's an anomaly in the Matrix, and maybe this version of the Matrix, because the aspect of love, which was different to the other versions, created this double effect essentially, and give the ability of doing that. Because I'm not gonna lie, when they went on the roof, that was when I was new. I was like, okay, yeah, I know who she is.
I was gonna say like what really kind of sold it to me, like as you were talking about it then, and I was just thinking about the whole film, and like the franchise in general. You could argue that there was always hints that she had extra powers that she wasn't aware of, because she literally like brings Neo back to life by kissing him, and then like she survived a bullet which was like unfathomable. I mean, obviously you could argue like, oh yeah, Neo's the one, he could do whatever he likes, but like there was definitely a lot of things that happened in the franchise where it made you think, oh, actually maybe Trinity has something going on, but
She
like they
was
haven't
always one of
explored
their
it.
she was always one of their better fighters and general members of their crew, right? So yeah, I don't think it's too much of a stretch.
Yeah, so like I was kind of very forgiving about her becoming one like and getting more powers.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, Jordan knows this, right? I actually used to really dislike Trinity in the previous movies. I'm not sure why. Maybe I was just younger and didn't like her for some reason. But I actually thought she was a lot better in this movie, personally, more interesting.
Yeah. When it comes to this film, though, actually going on your point is you actually brought up a good point, Jordan. When Trinity is brought back to life, could that have been because when you see him bring her back to life, a huge spark of light enters her body? Could that have been the point where he transfers, like she unlocked him, and he sort of like because it's the revival aspect, and that could have been like because they're going
like with Agent Smith as well. Like he got more powers after
exactly
being like zooped in. I mean, she only just got that the touch of life, but like, but yeah, I can see what you're talking about.
Yeah, because he went in, he took the blood out, and then he gripped her heart. Because he went back in, and gripped her heart, and then she saw her like this big revival and like big resurrection. And then obviously at the end of the third film, we thought they were both dead. But why did they take her as well? Like, because they could have just dumped her body. But then they realized, but this takes place soon after that happens, because obviously these movies take place within a couple of days of each other in the final two. So maybe the Matrix realized, oh shit, maybe this is what's going on. Maybe he has this a bit like with Smith, he's able to transfer himself into other people, like duplicate himself. Maybe Neo has the ability as well, just he has the ability to transfer his one ability. So wow, fuck, I never thought about
His
that.
oneness.
His oneness. I never
I-
fucking never thought about that. Like,
I was gonna
There you
say
go.
actually, on that particular note as well, that like I actually really liked, even though it was very brief, the kind of like, this is probably a bit gross to say, but I actually quite liked the whole they were rebuilding them and putting them in the
Oh
in
man,
the machine.
oh god,
It was
yeah,
like it made me feel so like, oh man, they like, because that I thought brought back some of my first feeling about the original Matrix, where it's like the machines are cold-hearted and they will just do this most grotesque, messed up things to humans to get what they want because they don't care about their feelings. And I just remember watching it, like, the tiny little robots going in their skin, and it's like, it was
yeah,
very, very
that was
scary.
messed up. Yeah.
it was when they were repairing Neo's eyes. Like
Oh,
that
and the
got me.
brain,
Like,
the
yeah,
brain as well. Ugh. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's just like that got me, to be honest. But yeah, going back to the rooftop sequence, like when they finally do jump off, I'm like, as soon as they hit that rooftop and Trinity's been driving, I was like, I knew what was going to happen because Neo tried to fly, which I thought was quite funny.
That was funny.
And
Yeah.
it was just like, no, can't do it. Maybe need to reboot. And then she's the one who catches him, which I thought was a beautiful scene. Like when she oh no, what is it? Oh, sorry, no, it's before that because she sees the city in code, but the code is golden this time. It's sort of like yellow, so it's not like the Matrix where Neo literally just saw code over it. You know, it was shaped out and everything. Because whereas Neo sees the Matrix in green, because we see that in the film.
Now he sees it in gold too,
I thought he sees it in
because
green.
he said, because it shows you the comparison when he's in like when he gets the ability to like see and code in the real world, he's seeing it in gold. Are you talking about when he's in the Matrix? I'm not sure how he sees it in the Matrix, to be fair, but I remember that scene very specifically because that's when he kills the Smith that's outside. He's like, I can see you, and he's like gold with like fire.
Yeah, so in the Matrix, Neo sees the world as code, green code. Because you remember in the end of the first film when he looks up and he sees all the hallway and everything, it's all green and so on and so forth in later versions. But in this movie, when he's walking down the street to the cafe, it's all green. But when Trinity sees the world, it's gold. So it's different. Like it's could be that 1.1 version. But when I saw that, I was like, okay, she's starting to see the real world, the Matrix world through her own eyes. And as soon as they jumped off, I was like, yes, I know exactly what's going to happen. I know exactly how that's going to play out. And I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. The flying off aspect, maybe not as much.
I was gonna say, yeah, that scene was, or that shot was really good, and then, and then a bit after when it just flew off a little bit, and then suddenly they're out. That was very abrupt, and
So
yeah.
they actually did that, by the way, multiple times. They actually jumped off, both of them jumped off that building.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so there's a behind the scenes video of them actually doing it in the middle of LA, just jumping off that building. And like
That must have been absolutely horrifying to shoot. I feel like they don't have to do that. Like, we have the technology to put a building like in CGI and a green screen, and
feel
like,
like
they were just like, yeah, just fucking chuck him off the side.
I feel like
Yeah.
Keanu's the kind of guy who just would do his like a bunch of his own stunts if he can.
oh,
Do
he
you know
does it,
what?
yeah.
He's not. He's not
Oh,
anymore because he's had far too many accidents.
oh really?
He said in like a Graham Norton interview about how he fucking came off his bike at speed and he's got a humongous scar on his leg.
Oh damn.
And like he was so like shocked at the time that a passerby who was helping him was like getting severely grossed out because he was saying, "Look how white my bone is," like because he's like delirious with pain.
I can literally hear that in his voice right now in my head.
If you know about the previous films, like in the first Matrix film, uh, Keanu Reeves had a spinal injury, and I believe Hugo Weaving had a leg injury. So if you watch the first film again, Keanu Reeves Neo doesn't do as many punches as Smith, where Smith doesn't do as many kicks. They actually did that in that film, so Neo does a lot more kicks in the first film. That changed in the second and the third film, but that's actually one of the reasons why behind this fighting. So actually, because Keanu Reeves actually trained with a neck brace on. So he went to training while his neck was still healing, which I think is just fucking dedication. But going back to the film though, like the ending, we haven't really spoke about one character. We haven't mentioned him, but Neil Patrick Harris.
Yes, I was gonna ask what you guys thought about that whole subplot.
I liked
Didn't
it to
hate
a
it.
degree. Like I understood him more than the architect.
Yes.
Like I understood his purpose. I loved the shift. Like obviously he's played not great characters like Gone Girl and everything and things like that. But obviously a lot of people realize him from like Doogie Howser and How I Met Your Mother and really Starship Troopers, which a lot of people didn't realize that at the time.
I mean, I
But
loved him in Gone Girl, but go on.
yeah, but like him in this film, I think the glasses puts it off, like because he wears blue in the film, like a lot of blue, and a lot of people associate blue with good, and that's interesting how that played out. And then I loved how it transitioned to that mirror scene where he's like, no, stay here, Thomas.
I
And
really liked that whole setup, to be honest. Except for the cafe scene was a bit like he was overstaying his welcome a little bit, but the whole premise of having like an agent in the Matrix who was still trying to control Neo through this like psychiatrist character, I thought that was a really interesting take on it.
but going to the end of the film though, where Trinity just kicks his jaw off,
Oh
I
God,
thought was
I forgot about that. That was messed
yeah.
up.
And then she cuts his throat, and I like the fact that when she pushed into the knocked into what he said, that's for giving me kids. Like to like, why'd you fucking take
Yeah.
talk
I
to
was
me
just
like that?
thinking, like, I think the one thing I kind of liked about the ending, even though it was a bit like silly and over the top, I kind of liked it anyway because it felt like the characters are just being like, fuck it. You know, they were like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, we're gonna. I like the idea of having the rainbows in the sky, thing. Let's totally do that, Neo. And it was just like, it just felt like they were just like, whatever, fuck it, like it's ending.
We've been through all these wars. We've been literally died and been sewn back together, and then we've done even more fucking time in the Matrix. Fuck it. Let's just paint the sky. Who cares?
I think it's also because obviously the machines have less energy now, so they can't really, they have to sort of like listen to the humanity now, really.
Did they say that?
Also, well,
Huh.
obviously the machine was about energy consumption and everything, and
Yeah,
how they have less energy now, and I think maybe that's why, they've tried to sort of not like go against, because they could easily just go attack humanity again.
Well, that was kind of like the whole thing about putting Trinity and Neo back in, was because it kept the peace of the ones who were inside the Matrix, but it also, because of the whole situation, it sparked like a robot civil war. And so, because the machines kind of like didn't like the way they were treated, some of them defected to the human side. But yeah, it's weird how they've like gone about all of that and then kind of got to this ending.
Yeah,
I guess is kind of what I thought about it, but I didn't hate it.
and I kind of wish we had more, and I'm hoping we get more. Maybe I'd like an animated show, because I kind of thought the flying off at the end was okay. Obviously, it literally does a full circle back to the beginning of the first one, but yeah, I don't know, I liked the film. If I had to give it a rating, I'd give it maybe a 6.57 at most. Like, because I think, as I said, for me, it was a case of the fighting was my biggest, like I love the fighting in those films and the music, and that was my biggest concern, really. And this, I loved the story, I loved the concept of the story, all that aspect. I just wish there was more of that and not as rushed, and I really wish that would have been what it was.
See, I definitely feel very similar to you, Nate, but like I think I would probably give it a slightly higher rating of like 8, just because I it gave me the feeling that other people have about reboots. And maybe that's just because I like The Matrix more than other reboots that have been out. But I felt like I was watching a decent sequel to a long finished franchise that no one necessarily asked for, but like I still appreciated for what it was. And it gave me enough of the story that it answered questions I had, but didn't like overstay its welcome either. I would be totally fine if they didn't make anything else Matrix wise, because it had enough for me to be like, okay, cool, that's enough more information about the future Matrix than it is now. So yeah, that's my take.
Yeah. I guess I go with probably around 7. I had a lot of fun with it. I didn't. It wasn't what I was expecting at all. But yeah, like generally overall, it was enjoyable. It was more funny than I thought. It started better than it finished, but Like I said, definitely didn't feel like it was the 2.5 hours. Didn't drag. Yeah, enjoyed it.
So that is it, people. We have finished our talk on the Matrix Resurrections. Thank you, Jordan and Chaz, for joining me for that. It was pretty awesome. We've delved into the
worries.
coded world, we've delved into the real world, and we've explored how we feel about the sequel after so long, realizing this is almost 20 years later. It was, I've got to give them the credit. Almost 20 years, it still, still works out really well. I actually did enjoy it a couple more than some other films. Won't go into that.
Definitely seen worse shoehorned in sequels for sure.
Yeah, but I want to thank, as I said, I want to thank you for joining me, and I definitely look forward to having more discussions on more films and other topics later down the line. If you've stuck around to this point, I just want to say thank you to all of you for joining us today, and please come back next week to see how we felt about our top 5 TV shows of 2021. I will actually have some top 5s there and some honorable mentions again, as well as a spoiler discussion for Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City, because that's definitely gonna need some conversation.
I am so hyped. I can't wait to watch that.
But yeah, as I said, if you'd like to get in contact with us with any questions or queries, please feel free to email us at nmipodcast@outlook.com. That's nmipodcast@outlook.com, or follow us on Twitter or Instagram at nmicast. As Twitter and Instagram at nmicast, and you can listen to this on Spotify, iTunes. You can listen now on Google Podcasts. You can listen to us now on Stitcher, and you'll be able to listen to us on Amazon, the Amazon store soon. So yeah, I just want to thank you all again. But until then, I've been your host, Nate, and hope you stay safe, and I will see you next week. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.